Well, that was smooth. Good Lord. Ugh, we're getting there, y'all. Little early start today. But look who we have. It's McKinley. Yay.
Hi.
Hey,
You sounded
everybody.
loud, so I'm assuming I sound super loud. Am I loud, y'all?
You don't sound loud to me. I don't think.
Yeah, but we can't tell.
No, we really can't. Y'all, we've been battling audio in the background. I don't really understand why StreamYard is adjusting audio volumes when I have automatic adjust mic volume turned off. It doesn't make sense to me. I wish I was smarter so I knew what the hell was happening. But it is what it is. So that's we're gonna try to move on. I got the audio booster on.
Oh, it's because I had it turned on my side.
McKinley stressing me out, trying to get me to fix things that I got no control over here. What the crap? It'll be all right. We'll
Am I still normal?
Yeah, you sound okay now.
Okay.
I think. For a little while you were like, it was like barely picking you up. So it was,
I had it turned all the way down to 9.
That'll do it. That'll do it every time. All right. I think we have the volume booster set. Welcome y'all to day 6 of this craziness in Colorado. We are doing Elijah McClain murder trial, Colorado versus Jeremy Cooper and Peter Chichuniec. Like I said, day 6. And without further ado, I think we're just going to get into it because I'm supposed to be on with Baker tonight at either 8 or 8:30. I'm not sure what the time. And these have been running about 6 hours, so I should be able to finish this and get something to eat before I have to stream again. Yay! Streamer's life for me. John H., how you doing, buddy? Rabbit, good to see you. Love you, doll. I appreciate you so much. KLI, what's going on, bud? How are you? Stray, hello,
Hey.
hello. And of course, McKinley Legally Live is here. Oh, you know what I should do real quick? Y'all, I got Ricada last night. I got him good. I got him real good. That's what I need to do. Oh, stop. So last night in Ricada's chat, I hid my links in his. Is that it? No, is that it? Yep. I hid my links in his pinned comments. He had no idea. We went the entire show with my links at the top of his pinned comments. My YouTube, my Cash App, my Venmo. I found it hilarious. So obviously I had to clip it when we told him at the end of the show. Check out the man's reaction.
Look at the pin chat close. Valhalla is a goat. Valhalla had his links pinned the whole show. Valhalla, you bastard. You're fired. Look at the pin chat close.
Completely worth it. I found it hilarious. Chat last night was all on the same page and absolutely let it ride. And I appreciate Ricada's chat for making that happen. Grifty, shout out, bro. All right. On that note, let's get into the trial, shall we? Live stream, share. Oop, that's not the right one. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
What's that?
That was my studio. I can show you later if you want.
Yeah.
But that's where you monitor. That's where I monitor chat and monitor who's in chat and the whole man. It's a useful tool. It's a useful tool.
Like the YouTube studio?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, show me later.
Will do. Wolf Kinder, hello. Glad you're here. Good to see you. All right. So without further ado.
Parties and counsel are present. Officer Ward's on the witness stand, still under oath.
Oh, see, that sounds very quiet.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning again, Officer Ward.
Morning.
Yesterday when we ended, we were talking about
Sounds quiet, yeah.
a little bit from McClain's position when he received the shot from Aurora Fire.
All right, we're at 500%.
Yes. And I'm just going to show you a still of that so that we can talk about that position and the jury can see what you're describing. Maybe just have Exhibit 105.
If that's still too quiet, let me know, you guys.
At 23:01:55.
Oh, Rabbit, you got a cold? I
I'm
hope you
sorry.
feel better, doll.
My bad. 230151.
Liquids and soups and whatnots. Vitamins.
Officer Ward, you had told us verbally what the position was, and I'm wondering if this still picture from People's Exhibit 105 is consistent with your memory.
Yeah.
And you had testified yesterday that Mr. McClain was in a toppled position.
Sound is okay?
Is
Good
that
deal.
right?
Yes.
We
And
got it up almost
for
as high as we can
your
get it.
training on what a recovery position is it fair to say that this is not the recovery position?
Like I said, I guess I don't know exactly at what point I would categorize it as not the recovery position anymore. It is supposed to be on the side for the recovery position. I don't know if I would call it that or not based off of his position. He does still look partially on his side.
I'm going to direct your attention to some testimony that you gave on October 3rd of 2023. Have you discussed this position before?
Judge, I'm going to object if we can approach.
And we're starting off with the sidebar. Awesome. Outstanding. Why does that keep going there? There we go.
Johnny, did you hear me? 121, top of the page. Officer Ward, if you could just
Thank
take
you,
a
Stray.
moment and look at that testimony.
There's nothing here.
Sometimes it's a little slow. You let us know, please.
Sometimes you're a little slow. So yesterday,
Not yet.
the medical examiner kind of
Put
put
on the other murders.
a twist
Yes,
on
sir.
my opinion anyway.
Um,
So
this one doesn't seem
we're
to
still
be
back and
working.
forth.
We put a new monitor up there to keep it out of the jury's view. So we might-
I can move along, Judge. If I may approach, I can.
you may.
They've only had 2 monitors that worked almost the entire trial.
So you were
Why are they
asked
worried about it now?
in October of 2023, has Mr. McClain moved at all from about 2 minutes ago? And your response was, he looks like he's in about the same position. And the question was, you mean not in the recovery position? And your answer is correct. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Was that your prior testimony?
Yes, I believe so.
Make sure
If you
y'all do
could
me the
show,
favor and hit the like. It
Exhibit
helps
105,
Yeah, I haven't
Um,
done that.
Greens, still
the algorithm
at
and my self-esteem. So that works.
230155. And Officer Ward, does this still of Mr. McClain being injected, is that conform to your memory also of his position?
Yes.
Maybe show to same exhibit 105, Officer Green, 230200. And does this still also show that he's in the same position?
Yes.
Now, as Mr. McClain was in this position, before he was put on the gurney, did you see any personnel from Aurora Fire and Rescue attempt to obtain any vitals from Mr. McClain?
Not that I saw.
Did you see anyone take his pulse?
I need to grab my phone
That I
charger.
saw.
I will be
Did you
right
see
back.
anyone attempting to determine if he was breathing?
Okay.
No, not that I saw.
Did you see anyone
Oh.
attempting to speak with him?
I
No.
knew you had to change the bell to
Did you see
off to get
anyone bring a
notifications.
medical
I had no
equipment
idea.
over to him in order to do an assessment?
Like I said before, I'm not sure what was close by, like if there was medical equipment by the gurney. I
call,
don't recall
Rabbit.
any
Good
being
call.
brought directly here.
To him, is that what you mean?
Yes. I'm just not sure what was close by the gurney. I didn't.
Hey, Project Metal Music. How you doing, bud? Glad to see you.
And you testified yesterday that you thought that Mr. McClain was in this position for at least 2 minutes. Did I understand that correctly?
I think I said about 2 minutes or so. I don't recall exactly how much.
Okay, thank you. After those 2 minutes, what happened next?
He was then placed on the gurney.
And how did that happen?
I believe fire and some other officers, not myself, assisted him up there. I'm not sure. I think I just provided light at that point for them.
Do you remember how Mr. McClain reacted or what he was doing at this point when he was moved to the gurney?
I don't recall while he was being moved there. I do remember when he was on the gurney. At one point, it seemed like he might have been passed out or going in and out of consciousness or something.
Does the phrase ragdoll mean anything to you?
Yes, I understand it.
Okay. Is it fair to say that Mr. McClain sort of looked like a ragdoll?
Sustained.
Would you use that phrase to describe him?
I would say more what I thought was maybe possibly going in and out of consciousness.
Fair enough. After he was put on the
Kind of a
gurney,
weird
what happened
question,
then?
Wasn't it? He was put into the ambulance.
Would you use
and
the word ragdoll
transferred
to
the
describe
hospital.
him?
I did not see that. That's just what I'm aware of happened.
Okay.
Life is
Now I
good.
wanna direct
Life
your
is good.
attention
Hey,
to what you
CKs,
did
how are
after
you?
That moment. Did you
Well,
go
I'm
up
glad.
into the
Thank you so
apartments
much.
to look for something?
Yes.
And can you tell the jury why?
Yes, I saw somebody looking down at us from a window somewhere upstairs in the apartment that we were right next to. So I tried to go find them to interview them.
That's the
And
problem.
at the time that you saw that person, could you determine if it was a man or a woman?
I don't recall for sure. I think I'm not positive.
All right. And could you tell roughly in the apartment where they were as far
I knew
as
something didn't
direction?
sound right on my end.
It looked
What was
to
it?
me like they were
I didn't
in
have the volume up on
the
the
window of the laundry
YouTube
room is
page.
what I figured out when I went upstairs there, I believe.
So,
I was like, why does it take
Go inside and what
500%? It doesn't make any
So I
sense.
went upstairs of the apartment and went into the laundry room, but nobody was in there anymore.
were you ever able to determine through this investigation who was at the window?
No, I don't know.
When you came back down, did you learn something about Mr. McClain?
I did hear either on the radio or from other officers, I can't remember, that he had like poured out or whatever the term is on the way to the hospital, I believe.
And what do you know that term to mean?
Cord out?
Some form of cardiac arrest.
Does she mean coded?
After this, did you collect some evidence from the scene?
Yes.
Could you describe to the jury how you did that?
Yes, so I collected a black ski mask that I put in a paper evidence bag. I also collected some other personal items. I don't recall all of what they were, but earbuds were included in those, and those I put in a plastic bag because I originally thought they were going to go with Mr. McClain's property, but I later actually put them in evidence.
Could you explain to the jury why you might put some evidence in a paper bag and why you might put some evidence in a plastic bag?
Well, normally I would have put all of it in a paper bag if I knew it was going to evidence right away. Paper bags are used when there's, in particular, if there's like anything wet on something or like DNA type stuff is supposed to go in paper bags so that it can, if it's wet, so
Like
it can dry out.
vomitous.
Plastic would like seal it up. So we don't put evidence in plastic typically.
Is there a concern about mold?
I believe so.
And did you look at the mask before you put it in a paper bag and put it into evidence?
Yes.
And did you notice any substance on the inside of the mask?
Yes.
Could you describe that substance?
Yes. It was like a reddish material that it looked like throw up to me.
It was consistent in your experience with vomit?
Yes.
Now, going back to when you first got on the scene and someone said, hey, don't step there, there's throw up. Was what you saw in the mask and what you saw on the grass, was it similar or consistent with each other?
I
That
believe
almost
so,
rhymed.
yes.
And did you ever see that same substance on Mr. McClain when he was put on the gurney?
Yes, I believe I saw something similar around his mouth nose area.
Now, you mentioned that you also picked up some earbuds. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes.
At that point, did you understand how that related to this scene?
No, I didn't realize there was any relevance.
When you look at when you remember back and you think about where you collected the mask and where you collected the earbuds, what was the relationship as far as where Mr. McClain was on the scene?
I know it would have been close by, but I don't recall exactly where. It was in the grassy area where he had been, but I don't recall exactly how close to him.
A couple steps away, or do you think further?
I would say like a few feet to like 5 or 6 feet, maybe.
Thank you, Officer Ward. I have no further questions at this time.
All right.
Cross-examination.
Don't everybody get up there at once.
Morning,
There we
Officer
go.
Ward.
Good morning.
They try to get that fixed. I'm going to ask you some questions. I've never met you before, correct?
Correct.
And do you know my client, Mr. Cooper?
No,
How about Lieutenant Chichuniec?
no,
And I got his name wrong, Lieutenant Cichuniec.
no,
So are you here trying to advocate for them?
no.
Are you here trying to tell the truth?
Yes,
Has it been a long time since this all occurred?
yes,
Prior to a series of times you've testified, had you spent hours reviewing your body-worn cameras?
I believe I reviewed it once prior to all this testimony.
Did you have access to all your fellow officers' body-worn cameras at any point in time?
No,
So as we are going through this and you're asked a series of questions, are you trying to rely on your memory?
I'm trying, yes,
Fair to say, having seen some of the body-worn cameras, some things have come back to you.
correct.
And some things perhaps you never even noticed when you were on scene, now you're seeing for the first time.
Yes,
So as we go through questions, I think it's really important you differentiate in your words what you're remembering, what seeing something you now remember, or what you don't have any memory of, but you can see it. Does that make sense?
yes,
Okay. So when you got on scene on August 24th, 2019, is it fair to say you were responding to what seemed to be a escalated situation with law enforcement?
yes,
Fellow officers had radioed out they needed help.
correct.
When an officer radios, we're fighting them, keep them coming. What does that mean?
I interpret that to mean they're in a fight with somebody that they're trying to detain or arrest and that they need immediate assistance.
Is that alarming as an officer?
Yes.
Why?
It doesn't happen that often. That means they're in danger.
So did you try to get there as fast as you could?
Yes, until we were told to slow down. Yes,
So at some point, something came over the radio. You don't remember the exact words, but basically saying you can slow it down.
correct.
You continued to the scene though, right?
Yes,
And when you got there, to your recollection, how many officers were already on scene?
I know at least 3, but I believe there was about 5. I'm not
Okay.
positive.
So was there Sergeant Leonard?
Yes,
Because he's who you talked to, right? And then there were at least 3, to your recollection, on Mr. McClain.
yes, yes.
And then there was at least probably 1, perhaps more, around.
I think those are the numbers. I don't recall exactly.
Fair enough. At that point, Sergeant Leonard gave you a direction to do something else, correct?
Yes,
And you were to go call the reporting party or the person that had called in that started this, is your understanding.
yes.
And you were able to make contact with that person, weren't you?
On the phone, yes,
And without talking about what that individual said, he talked to you, correct?
yes,
And you came back and you relayed the information to the sergeant.
yes.
And as you're on the scene, between that first time and the second time, that's when at some point fire had arrived. Is that accurate?
I think so. I did not recall seeing them when I first arrived, so I don't think they were there yet. I just can't say for 100% certainty.
Okay. And the jurors are going to be able to watch the videos. So all we're asking you is for your memory. Okay.
Mhm.
When you came back up, there were additional people there.
Yes,
And at some point you realized fire's there.
yes,
There are still at all times law enforcement on Mr. McClain, correct?
yes,
In fact, that doesn't change until he's lifted to the gurney, correct?
I believe so.
Because law enforcement is in charge of securing him on the ground, correct?
I would say, yeah, law enforcement's in charge of the detainment or arrest.
Right. Yeah. You're just following your directives. Fair?
Yes.
And Mr. McClain was in his handcuffs.
Yes.
You didn't put those on.
No.
They were on him.
Correct.
And when you are interacting, there is how Mr. McClain is interacting with law enforcement, at least based on what you're seeing and hearing, at times is kind of waxing and waning.
Hey,
It's up
John.
and down, and there's movement.
How you doing,
Fair to
buddy?
say?
Yes.
And at points, you hear people saying things or doing things that draw you to think you need to get closer, and other officers got closer, correct?
Yes.
In fact, there were now, do you remember Sergeant Nunez also being on scene?
I remember her being there. Yes. I don't recall much of what she did there. But
Okay. Do you remember even Sergeant
That
Leonard
was an
stepping forward and
exasperated sigh if I've ever
placing his
if I've
foot
ever
on top
heard
of
one.
him and
Dude,
hold him in place and
I've
say,
been looking for this like
Stop doing that.
text
Remember?
message from 2021 forever.
Whatever you
On your
observed
phone?
made you.
Yeah, and I
said
just
you
found
need
it.
to Kind of, as I'm
Well, there you
understanding
go.
it, you're coming kind of from where Mr. McClain's feet are, and you're working around towards the building side of him initially. Does that sound right? He's facing the building.
yes, I think I was like
The
beyond
search is
vision,
over.
Essentially, when I was talking to Sergeant Leonard, and then when my attention got drawn, yeah, I was closer to the building.
Okay. And that's when you said for safety reasons in your training, that wasn't a good place for you to be in. So you repositioned yourself.
Yes.
Okay. And again, you're just relying on your training and where you should position with respect to somebody that could be potentially a threat to law enforcement.
And I didn't even need it.
Yeah, I mean, I moved for
That's the
some
worst.
reason because the throw
The worst.
That's the worst.
At some point, you then came back to the other side and you actually end up by Mr. McClain's head, correct?
Yes.
And I want to give you, Officer Ward, we're going to put back up this exhibit that was just shown to you. And I want to give you the chance in your words to explain. I think it's People's 105. I believe we were at 2302. If it comes up. So, and I'm terrible with technology, so we'll see if there's a laser.
I can relate, lady. I can relate.
So in this picture, you see some people with gloves on, correct?
Yes.
And, okay. This black gloves here, that's not your hand, correct?
Correct.
This over here, this smaller arm, is that your arm?
Yes, I believe so.
Up here near where you were yesterday documenting for the jury, where you put your fingers kind of behind or by Mr. McClain's ear as a pressure point area or in front of
Knuckles, yes.
knuckles?
It's-
Okay.
Yes.
And you see here, this is Fire. And is Fire putting his fingers on the carotid, like feeling the throat and the carotid area, Mr. McClain? Do you recall?
I don't recall.
Okay. And you're looking at this, and that's not fair. I'm not going to ask you to edit what's on the photo. If you don't recall, that's fine. Okay. So you don't recall that. But you recall, and you repeatedly testified this topple position. So as we're looking at Mr. McClain, is this kind of an incline, a little bit of a sloped area, this grassy area right here? Do you remember it being a little inclined?
I don't remember it being significantly. I mean, they're probably the normal slope that would go from a building to the street. But
Sure. And the gurney's kind of back over here. Do you recall that?
yes.
Okay. And this is Mr. McClain's belly, right? Right here.
Yes.
And it's kind of tipped up sideways. You can see the grass right underneath it. He's not flat on the grass, is he?
No, it's hard to explain, but basically this is the like partially toppled over position I was
But
trying
you've
to
been-
explain.
That you've been trying to explain. That he's on his shoulder, and that right shoulder starts to slump forward a little bit. So it's not straight up to the side. It's your words toppling, correct?
Doesn't seem like a recovery position to
This is
me.
cross, and I'm asking her words of toppling.
Well, I would agree that it's crossed, but I'm not sure about the her words part of it. But please continue.
Officer Ward, when you're talking about toppling, you're referencing the shoulder, correct?
Yes.
And Mr. McClain has officers on him. His hips are on the side, and his shoulder starts to topple forward. Is that what you're saying?
That's what it looks like here.
And so that's what it looks like. But and we can take it down, as you're talking, you've been trying to say toppling, and it's hard. You've got a vision in your head, and you're trying to put it out here. Tell us from your words, what are you trying to explain?
I mean, yeah, I'm trying to explain that position. As you said, it was a long time ago, so just my memory isn't 100% there. From what I recalled, he was at least partially on his side and partially toppled over is at least something that I've kind of been reminded of since seeing the footage.
As you sit here and talk to this jury, do you ever remember Mr. McClain being flat on his belly and people on top of his back?
No.
That would have been something that was concerning, wouldn't it have?
Yes.
So you're trying to explain to this jury that you're trying to keep him in the side position, but he's shifting and moving in different ways. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And after the medication, that perhaps, do you notice that he relaxes a bit?
Like I said yesterday, I noticed over time he did. I couldn't tell you like an exact point when he started to suddenly be different or anything.
And fair enough. If suddenly he had stopped breathing when you were with your knuckles there, that would be something you remembered, wouldn't it?
Yes.
That didn't happen.
Not that I recalled, no.
If suddenly after you were here with your knuckles on him, he started to vomit, that would be something you would remember, right?
Yes, I think so.
And that didn't happen, did it?
No.
If suddenly when you had your knuckles here, his condition changed and you believed.
Hey,
he
little
would
dog,
die
how you doing?
with
Welcome.
you with
Glad
your
you're here.
knuckles right there, that'd be something you'd remember, wouldn't it?
Yes.
And that didn't happen, did it?
No.
You were with Mr. McClain trying to make sure he didn't move, correct?
Trying to make sure that everybody was safe. Yeah. I would say not trying to stop movement completely, but
Sure. And you did put your hand where you thought you needed it to be just in case, right?
correct.
Now, when you didn't apply pressure, you didn't announce that, hey, I'm not applying pressure, did you?
No.
You just, where you were, didn't feel the need to put pressure, right?
Yes.
Because of what you were feeling and where you were, that was your decision, right?
Yes.
After Mr. McClain was relaxed, do you remember Fire asking to remove his cuffs prior to moving him to the gurney? Do you remember that?
I don't remember that.
Okay. And that's fine. Do you remember him being lifted, Mr. McClain being lifted to the gurney?
I do remember others put him on the gurney. I don't recall exactly who did.
Okay. And do you remember when he was on the gurney, at some point, the cuffs were off and the soft restraints were on?
Yes.
And do you remember them Fire taking him to the ambulance?
Yes.
Is that kind of the transition you expected to have happen?
Yes.
He's going to go with Fire and go to the ambulance and go to the hospital.
Yes.
At any point during your time with Mr. McClain, were you concerned that right now I need to yell to Fire to get over here and do something because something's changing?
No, I never realized. No, I never realized what was going on.
And I can see the emotion. If you had, would you have said something?
Yes.
Does this haunt you?
Yes.
It's hard. It's not what you set out to do that night, is it?
No.
From your
I don't like this kind
impression,
of
was
questioning.
anybody there wanting to harm Mr. McClain that night from what you personally observed? It's perceiving.
Well,
witness.
hopefully you have a good
It's
lunch,
perceiving
and I
witness, and maybe
appreciate
they're
it,
accused of
man.
Doing intentional acts to
appreciate-
Mr. McClain.
I appreciate all you guys for watching and listening.
All right, the court will find it would be rationally based upon perception if she remembers.
Go ahead and answer.
No, I didn't think anybody had that intention.
Back it up just a moment.
Rob Mill, what's up, buddy? Welcome.
Officer Ward, thank you for your time this morning. I don't have any further questions.
Thank you.
On behalf of Mr. Chichuniec?
Just have a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
The defense team is so ridiculous with this guy and the Walker lady, and I love it. I love it all.
Redirect.
It's like a motley crew of misfits.
Officer Ward, whose role was it to protect Elijah McClain medically at the scene?
Medically would be Fire EMS.
That was not your job, right?
Correct.
And you realize that there was a dramatic change. You testified yesterday in Mr. McClain's condition, correct?
From when I first noticed him to when he was put on the gurney, I would say yes.
And in this dramatic change, you did not see anyone from Aurora Fire personnel do anything to address that dramatic change.
Like I said, from what I recall, I saw the medication given. I saw them put him on the gurney and into the ambulance. I don't know exactly what they did when I didn't see, but I saw. I didn't see them come over to him on the ground or anything like that.
I have nothing else. Thank you.
May the witness be excused?
Hmm.
All right, may be excused.
All right. There's Officer Alicia Ward.
Yes.
followed by a sidebar. Ooh, that's an interesting camera angle.
Who is that?
I don't know, but it was awesome. All right, let's see if we can skip forward a little bit. It's got to be one of the defense attorneys, right?
I don't know.
She came from that side of the courtroom.
Well,
Oh, did
wait for a minute. Try to fix our monitor. Feel free to stand up and stretch. The attorneys have me stand up and stretch fairly often. So
It was eerie. Good one. Nice. Well done. Well done.
Oh, okay.
This always drove me nuts when lawyers are just kind of joking and laughing and having chopping it up when somebody's life is on the line.
Yeah.
You guys are arguing whether or not to put these men away for years in prison, and you're just over there joking
it looks
about
like
the
our
weather and
monitor is
shit.
fixed. So
It always drove me nuts.
we could get prepared for our next witness.
Now we got a scooter. What is going on in Aurora, Colorado? Jesus.
Oh, he just crashed.
He did just crash. Ah. Oh, it makes me
He
so happy.
crashed.
What's his name? I bet him and the Walker lady are having race.
You can state your name, please, and spell your last name.
First name's Matthew, last name is Ingui.
Your witness.
INGUI.
Sir, if there's anything that we can do to accommodate you during the course of this, please let me know. We'll
Yes,
try and keep it brief. Could you tell the jury what you do for a living, please?
I'm a police officer with the city of Aurora.
And what is your role at the Aurora Police Department?
I'm currently a detective assigned to the Raven Task Force.
A detective, were you involved in interviewing individuals after the death of Elijah McClain?
Yes, I was, sir.
Did you interview a number of people, including the defendants in this case, Mr. Cooper and Chichuniec?
Yes, sir.
When did you set up those interviews?
They were on
Kinda
September
weird that-
11th, 2019.
Their own detectives would
Did you set
interview
those
them.
up
but
a
Okay.
week before that?
Well, they probably.
I'm probably close to that, yes.
I wonder if they've got like an internal affairs deal.
Give your report.
I mean, they've
that you
got
set those interviews
the
up,
AG's
on September
office
4th. Would that be
That's
accurate?
Trying the
Yes, sir.
case. So
It's a pretty big city too. I think I
So
looked
would the
up
interviews have been
the
taken place roughly
population
18
the other
days
day. It's something
after
like
the incident on August
300,000.
24th?
Fairly
is
decent
correct.
sized city.
Did both of the defendants that you were interviewing there have an opportunity to have their lawyer present with them?
Hey, Mr. James.
Well, I'll allow that.
How you doing, buddy?
Question is foundational.
Were they? Did you record those interviews?
Yes, they were audio and video recorded.
Is that the typical practice of the APD?
Yes,
Now, prior to testifying today, did you have an opportunity to review what's been marked as People's Exhibits 150 and 152?
yes, I did.
What's up, Lord
Were
Byron?
those fair and accurate copies of the interviews that you did?
Yes, they were.
Your Honor, I'd move for admission of People's Exhibits 150 and 152.
Board dire or objection to those exhibits?
Subject to Howard, do we have to-
Make sure y'all hit the like on your way in, please,
We're not planning to allow to cross.
or your way out for that matter. If you're
All
leaving.
right, the court will admit exhibits 150 and 152.
I don't have any other questions for you, Detective. Thank you.
Board dire.
Good morning, Detective. I feel your pain.
Thank you. Good morning.
You said that, did I hear you say that you currently work at the
She
Raven?
said, I
Task
feel
Force?
your
That is
pain.
correct.
But back in 2019, you were a detective. In what capacity?
I was assigned to the Aurora Police Department's Major Crime Homicide Unit.
Okay. And in that capacity, you came to interview Mr. Cooper and Lieutenant Chichuniec, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. Why is that you were doing that interview?
I was the lead detective assigned to the case.
So in the course of your having the case, you scheduled some interviews. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And when you said you scheduled these interviews, counsel asked if you remembered when you scheduled them. Were you giving these
Hi,
individuals
Danielle.
preferential treatment?
How you doing, babe?
ma'am.
Did you just help to schedule their interviews?
Glad you're here.
I mean, I had to work around everyone's schedule.
Okay. And in the course of doing this investigation, did you also work with others?
Yes, ma'am.
In fact, you worked with the coroner's office.
Yes, ma'am.
At any point in time, did you obstruct the coroner's office's investigation?
I forgot to put out that we're live.
Yes, we'll have to bring you back. I'm sorry to do that. Fine, we'll stick to just this narrow scope. In the course of interviewing, there was reference to that the attorneys were present. Were you aware that there was already a civil attorney involved in the case? Judge, they elicited it. They elicited that the attorneys were with them.
Yes, sustained.
So when you met with the detective, met with Mr. Cooper and Lieutenant Cichuniec, they had an attorney with them, correct?
That is correct.
Did they cooperate with you with your investigation?
Yes, they did.
Did they do anything at any time to obstruct your investigation?
Oh, ma'am.
Did they ever at any time indicate that they would not assist with your investigation?
Oh, ma'am.
Had you ever met them before?
No, ma'am.
I don't have any further questions at this time.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On behalf of Mr. Cichuniec.
Just one, Your Honor. Were Mr. Cooper and Mr. Cichuniec forthcoming with information during your investigation?
Objection, speculation.
Rephrase.
Did either Mr. Cooper or Mr. Cichuniec at all interfere with the investigation?
No, they did not.
There we go.
Thank you.
Redirect.
Thank you.
May the witness be excused for now.
Unfortunately for now.
You're excused, detective, subject to defense subpoenas, apparently.
Thank you, sir.
That was it. That was his entire test. Okay. That almost seemed worth making him scoot his way to the witness stand. Oh, that was dumb.
Your Honor, at this point in time, if
Okay.
people would like to play the admitted exhibits for the jury, starting with Exhibit 150, the interview of Defendant Chichuniec.
You may.
Oh, that's what they did it for. They're not going to make him stay there
Apparently not. That seems weird.
while it's played. Like,
Right.
what if they have questions?
Right. What if there's an objection that he's a part of? I guess he's probably a busy man. Just got to scoot all over town looking for detective things to do.
I think he's probably like out on medical leave right now.
No, possibly. He might be all doped up and they didn't want him on the stand for very
I
long.
think so.
Yeah. Rob, I was leaning pretty guilty for the first 4.5 days. And then yesterday, the medical examiner kind of changed my mind a little bit. And I think I'm leaning more on the innocent side now.
Firmly in the not guilty camp. Also, like, we're not to the end of the case yet. So,
We're not
you
even
know, the
close.
presumption of innocence still applies.
Yeah.
For me, it does.
Always. It always should for all of us. I know we were making a couple people mad yesterday, but that's all right.
We were.
That's all right. I don't know if mad is the right.
It happened again.
Your headphones just switched.
They suck.
Did it connect to your phone? Very strange.
Your Honor, in the interest of efficiency, I would have no objection to pass forward the video to the point where
That
the interview actually starts to take place.
makes sense. Court will authorize that. So once we have folks in the picture, we can fast forward it to them.
That's so weird.
So they just brought him on to authenticate the video, and now he
Yeah.
got to dip out, and they're going to play the video.
Yeah, it's weird. What the judge just say about it?
We're good.
I didn't quite catch it. Something
doesn't
about
matter.
getting to the specific person or people or whatever. Hey, expert. I don't know if mad's the right word. I don't know if mad's the right word.
2019.
No, they weren't
Reference
mad. They were just like,
Reference
we were having a
3286. I'm Detective
debate.
Matty with the Aurora Police Department's Major Crime Unit. And this is-
Discussing ideas
You
thoroughly.
are, sir?
David Goddard, counsel for Lieutenant
Cichuniec.
Cichuniec.
Okay. And your first name?
Pete Cichuniec.
Okay. Peter
Is legal, yes.
Okay. Cichuniec.
Correct.
Okay. And what is your ID number, sir?
0300-869.
So 300-869.
Yeah, 0300-869. Yep.
Okay.
We have to add the
Yeah, I
zero.
know you guys. Start off, how long have you been with the City of Aurora Fire Department?
Expert, I did send you a link, right? I think I did.
And your current rank and
I
assignment?
think I did.
Lieutenant on Engine 2 A shift.
And Engine 2 is out of Station,
Station 2.
okay, which is located where?
12600
Yeah, okay.
And as a firefighter, do you have any specialized training outside of firefighting? Are you a paramedic? Are you
Shit, what was his name?
What is
Paramedic.
Damn it.
And how long have you been a paramedic?
Since 07.
And,
sorry,
um,
I fell off.
So what is the?
Oh, no. This is,
Went
never
to
mind. I'm an
St.
idiot. This
Central
is Peter
School.
Okay.
Chichuniec, the defendant.
Oh, yeah.
And it ends up
I knew
being
that.
a 9.5-month course, including your rides. Right around there.
Pay attention.
And when you say rides, meaning going to ambulances and
500 hours in the field on rides.
Hey, expert.
And outside of paramedic, is there any advanced medical training that you've received other than your paramedic training?
No.
Okay. And how long have you been at the rank of lieutenant?
I believe it's 4 years.
And as a lieutenant, are you the officer in charge then for that watch? If there's anybody, not anybody outranking you, I assume?
There is someone outranking me at my station, my captain,
Okay.
but on the engine, I'm the highest ranked.
Okay. Specifically going back to the 24th of August, 2019, did you happen to be contacted by the Aurora Police Department to assist in a incident that took place?
We're contacted by dispatch to run a call.
Okay. And the information that you had received reference that call list, if you remember.
A man running around in a mask. APD's on scene.
Anything else behavior-wise or anything else provided to you?
Not making sense, waving his arms at cars and people.
So that night, what was your role and who were you with?
I was Lieutenant Acting Engineer Daniel De Jesus.
Okay.
My fire medic Jeremy Cooper. The firefighter on a trade, Austin Bradley.
Okay. And I know that you have like an order where you sit in the rig.
Correct.
Where were you in the rig?
It's 0.1 position, so right front.
Okay. So you get the information and where did you respond from?
From quarters.
Okay. You remember at what time that you got contacted by dispatch?
Approximately, I didn't look at my watch, but it's approximately 11:15.
Okay. At that time, you guys suit up and what happens?
Respond emergent. Get notes en route that they're closer to, or they're further north on Billings.
Okay. Did you receive any updated information either via dispatch from what the person was doing, via police dispatch, fire dispatch, combination of both, or was it still just the basic information that you had received?
Just basic information, I can recall.
Okay. You arrive on scene. What do you see when you arrive on scene?
A lot of APD cars.
Okay.
So the one information we got was don't enter from the south because APD has it clogged up.
Okay.
I saw that on my MDC, all the cop cars there, but we already committed.
So did you come up then from
We came
Colfax?
up Billings from
Okay.
Colfax, yes.
So the rig gets parked. What happens next? The order of events, I guess.
Walk into the scene to find a patient down on the ground, handcuffed, fighting off the APD officers.
Okay. Whose responsibility is it to gain any more information at that time? Is it yours or who provided the most information, or how did you get any more information when you got there?
Try to find out who primary is on APD side and speak to them.
And did you speak to someone at that time?
No, it was just general, a couple people, and I don't know which officers they were.
Okay. And general information, what did you receive? Any more updated information at that time?
Nothing that we couldn't see.
Okay. And specific to that, what did you see when you were there?
A couple officers trying to hold him down, trying to control the patient. He was kind of controlling the scene though, because he was throwing them off.
That was kind of
One officer had him in a hobbled position without
the-
the hobble.
the
and
police
he
officer that was
or crossed and
convicted
at the knees trying to
was
hold him down.
convicted of
Another
lesser
officer was
charges. So you're
on
at
his
least
upper
on the
body,
same
trying to keep him down.
mindset as that jury.
And Judge might just be
And expert, what makes you think Miami Spice doesn't have a set of handcuff keys?
Trial so far.
All right.
Hi, Miami. How you doing, Dom? Glad you're here.
I'm thinking of his job, not yours.
That's funny.
All right, why don't we continue? We'll make a fresh pot of coffee before the break.
With your own eyes, how would you describe that person's, what was he, I mean, was he actively resisting? Was he saying anything verbally? Was there any kind of communication between yourself and this person, or yourself and the officers, or what else did you see behavior-wise of the person on the ground?
He wouldn't speak to us, but I can describe it as excited delirium.
Okay. And on that note, what does excited delirium to you mean?
It's a medical condition that this person has
No.
no control over their body at all. They're not in the right state of mind.
In your, is it 13 years that you?
No, Rabbit, you're good.
And,
Go ahead and lay down,
12
babe.
years that you've been a
Thank
paramedic,
you
have
so
ever
much.
been involved or
I hope you feel
been
better
present for
soon.
someone displaying excited delirium
Feel
before?
better.
And it was this behavior consistent with that?
Yes.
Did officers tell you anything to that effect? That he was displaying excited delirium behavior or anything of that nature?
Not that I recall.
Okay. Did the officers explain to you anything that had been done to the person on the ground? Did they at any time tell you they had used any type of arrest control or force to detain him?
No.
Okay. Did you have any information besides what you physically saw about him being under any known illicit drugs or alcohol?
That'd be completely subjective, so I couldn't answer that. I don't, without a toxicology report, I couldn't tell you.
But have you dealt with people that have been under alcohol and drugs in the past?
Yes.
Okay. And you described them as excited delirium, this specific case, correct? This person had the characteristics of that?
Of excited delirium?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. And having been involved with someone who has had or been, I guess, diagnosed, or however you would, or be consistent with the behavior of someone or displaying excited delirium, this person was that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So at this time, are you gaining any information outside of that, outside of what you're seeing?
No.
Okay. Do you request an ambulance?
One's automatically dispatched with us.
Okay.
I just got on the air to ask their ETA and tell them to come from either Evergreen or Montview. This Billings was clogged up.
Okay. And was that you who did that on the radios? Okay. Is that one of your job duties? Yes. Okay. So ambulance arrives. Okay. And then what are the steps that you, as
Nice,
the
Yoda.
officer in charge, and as a paramedic and having a paramedic there, what's the steps that take place from here?
I'm in charge of my crew and scene safety for them, along with the patient and APD.
Okay.
So I kind of watch over the whole scene. I help as a medic if my help is needed.
Do you dictate anybody's behavior within your group?
As far as what?
Like telling them to do something, like you need to do this, or, I mean, do you?
Usually Fire Medic Cooper was the one running the call.
Okay.
So he's the one overly in
Thanks,
charge of the
Rabbit.
EMS side of it. He's the one giving directions.
Did you receive any directions from Medic Cooper?
No, I asked him if he was good with ketamine.
Okay. What does ketamine?
It's a drug that we use in our protocols to treat excited delirium patients.
Maybe a poorly worded question. What is it a accelerant? Is it a sedative? Is it what type of drug?
It's a sedative.
Okay. Is it under a class of drug?
Sure it is, but I'm not a pharmacologist, so
Okay.
I can tell you what class that is.
Have you used ketamine in the past?
No, because it's new to our system.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
What
wow.
system is it?
He's never used
Be
it
a rough
before.
guess, but I'd say a year or so.
He was like, I
I've
couldn't
tried,
wait.
but it's been
Just
on
couldn't
backwards,
wait
so
to
that's-
put my hands on that stuff and use it on somebody.
Fault.
That's not good.
That's insane.
Do you guys carry any other drugs or in a kit or in a bug out bag or whatever you want?
Good. Excited delirium's
Both on
a
the sedative side and
overused term,
is there a reason ketamine is used versus a different drug?
incorrectly used
Protocol to
by
treat the
law
symptoms,
enforcement.
Symptoms of excited delirium.
Okay. So at the end, whose decision was it to use ketamine?
It was mine.
Okay. And per your protocol, which I don't know if you have a copy, is it under the agitated combative patient protocol?
This is why you should not talk
We know those protocols. We have
Okay,
to
to.
law
no, okay.
enforcement.
And so about a year or so since you guys have been, I guess, approved to use ketamine. If you didn't have ketamine, is there another sedative that could be used in its place?
Not in for his symptoms, signs and symptoms. No.
Okay.
No, it falls directly under ketamine.
Okay. And
Was it a
protocol
single other
needs
drug you could have used?
for excited delirium to administer ketamine, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Looking at the patient, his behaviors, your decision, who actually gets the ketamine?
Falk drew it up. I told him to draw up 500 milligrams,
Okay.
and paramedic Cooper administered it to his right deltoid.
So the dosing wise, how does that work? Can you explain that to me?
It's a weight-based drug.
Okay.
Do 5 milligrams per kilogram.
Cooper shouldn't get in trouble at all.
Kilogram is what, 2.2 pounds?
Right.
He just administered
And
it.
looking at the patient, what did you estimate?
And he
his
was
weight?
told
The
to.
guest estimate, due to the darkness, struggling so much, what he was wearing, and not staying still, I estimated just roughly around 85 kilograms.
Okay, so 85 kilograms equals what, 190 pounds, give or take,
Right around that.
mathematically?
Times
Okay.
2 at 10%.
Okay.
That's a good rule of thumb.
Okay, so times 2 at 10%, which leads you to have a dose of the 500.
Yes.
Okay. So for your build, would you have a dose similar to that?
Yes.
Okay. For my build?
Yes.
Okay. Is it a standardized dosage or is it specific, weight specific? Like it?
Our protocol is weight specific, but we were taught 3 doses, 300, 400, or 500 milligrams, based on their size, small, medium, or large.
Okay. And you described this person because of the behavior and size. It was.
He was over the
Large.
400.
Okay.
And with a 5 cc syringe, we cannot measure. There's no increments on there to measure exactly. So I went up to the 500 because of his agitated state and his signs and symptoms of excited delirium.
The vial itself, can you describe that to me? How is the ketamine contained?
And a glass vial, you have to pop the top off, safety on it. They're locked up all the time, accounted for.
Is-
I can't speak for Falk. Ours, all of our controlled substances are accounted for.
Did you see the draw on the from the bottle?
No.
Okay. But common practice is if you tell Falk to do something, they're going to do it.
Yes.
Specifically, have you seen a ketamine so that you described it as a safety bottle? Is there a, this is me ignorant,
No,
guys.
it's fine.
So is it a giant bottle, a little one? Is it like an insulin
It's like
bottle?
5 cc's of fluid in there.
Okay. Like a spongy top that you pump
Rubber
in.
top that you put in the filter, yes.
And usually is it a 1-dose bottle?
Yes, there's 500 milligrams in one bottle, which is 5 cc's.
Okay. Is that a diluted solution or is it a,
That's straight.
I don't remember
is
that,
there other, so you see,
but that's not saying it wasn't
you
part of the
asked him if he-
testimony.
Cooper if he was okay with it. Does Cooper order or did you order it from Falk?
I ordered it from Falk
Okay, and Falk does it, and did they give you the syringe or did they give it to?
to Cooper and verified, and he had the vial to show him.
Okay, so he walked over with the vial
Yes.
and the syringe filled?
5 cc's, yep.
Okay.
Correct.
And you described him placing it in his right deltoid.
Correct.
Is that a common place for the drug?
Intermuscular.
Okay.
We can go deltoid, thigh,
Okay.
any muscle.
And through the practice and your policies.
Yeah, I think that's
using
what it
ketamine,
was.
What are you expecting the results of the ketamine to happen, or what are the expected results?
Calm the patient down to where we can safely move him so he's not a harm to himself or others.
Okay. Is there a time frame that usually takes to occur?
Our protocols say 1 to 2 minutes.
Okay. That evening, did that take 1 to 2 minutes?
I didn't look at my watch, but I'm guessing it was around 2 minutes.
From the initial injection to when his behavior would be consistent with the drugs taking effect, was he still combative? Was he still resisting officers? Was he saying anything that you can recall?
He was winding down, never said anything.
Once the drugs take effect, what's the next step?
To place him on our frame with soft restraints.
And was that done?
Yes, it was. Took the handcuffs off and then restrained both his legs individually at the ankle, and then one arm up, one arm down.
And you
Soft restraint.
put your right arm up and your left arm down. Is that common
Yes.
Okay. Is there a reason that the right arm would be up and the left arm would be down?
The right arm up, that gives us vascular access. We need to start an idea.
John, that's kind of
close together. So we
the
spread them out,
point
which is common practice.
that
Okay.
we were making yesterday, though. It would be
So
malpractice,
that's
not,
done. Is
not
that
criminal
done
charges.
outside of the ambulance? Or
right?
Outside the ambulance.
Outside the ambulance.
So you, the next steps are once he's been soft restrained on the pram, is he placed in the ambulance?
Correct.
Okay. And so once we get in the ambulance, where are you at? Where are the people at? And what's going on once that happens?
Sitting in the captain's chair, which is at the head of the pram. Now it's assigned airway.
Okay. Who is to your right?
If I remember correctly, it was Falk was to the right.
Okay. And who else is in the rig itself?
The rest of my crew was there.
Okay. Is that common?
Yes.
So everybody is going to go into there. And do everybody have a specific job to do?
Usually lead medic will delegate what he wants done by whom.
Okay. And did that happen?
Yes.
Okay. And so you were delegated to be at the head?
To the airway.
Okay, airway. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
So once you're at airway, what happens? What
He
events
was
take place
delegated
in
to
the,
airway.
Ambulance?
He starts vomiting. When we were outside, he was vomiting more and more and more. So I was concerned about his airway, so I was suctioning him.
Okay. And what suction do you use?
It's the house suction. So there's a vacuum pump on the ambulance that goes into a canister, which has a tube coming off, and I use a yank power tip to suction his mouth out as best I could.
Is that a hook? Or
It's a hard plastic tube about this long with a slight bend in it to be able to put in your mouth.
And you're sucking out the vomit?
This is the vomit.
Okay, and this is, and what's going on with the patient at this time?
Everyone else is trying to get him on a monitor and just treat the patient. So I'm just actively suctioning him out, trying to keep up.
Yeah,
with
that
his
is new.
vomiting.
Respiration, anything being said by him, any abnormal behavior or anything?
No, he's just laying there.
Okay. At that time, other medical services are being provided?
Correct.
Checking over his body. And at what time or what is the next step that takes place?
Well, everyone has their own function that they do.
Okay.
IV access, monitor.
So you're specific. Okay. Clearing that out and
What the hell?
do you provide oxygen?
Yes.
Via mask, in the nose, over the mouth? What oxygen are you?
I don't recall immediately. I don't think we got an oxygen on him immediately because he stopped breathing. So we went right to, I had an OPA in him, so we're going to bag him.
And what does that stand for?
OPA?
Yes, sir.
Oropharyngeal airway.
And what does that mean?
It's a plastic device that's measured and we stick it in their mouth and it brings the tongue up. So it helps open the airway up.
Okay. And did you do that?
Yes.
Okay. How shortly after you were doing the suction did you realize that he wasn't breathing?
It was fairly quick.
Okay.
I don't know the time because we were too busy to look at clocks.
Okay. And that's fine. I mean, time wise,
I mean, it was quick.
And then, so you have the OPA?
Correct.
And so his airway is open. Are you suctioning still at this time?
Trying to suction, but also getting a bag valve mask on him, PVM.
Okay. And what does that do?
That direct oxygen forceful into their lungs.
Okay. And how is that done?
Via a mask. So there's a mask
I
over
might
their
have just
face that
turned
seals over their
guilty.
nose and their mouth.
Right?
It's a
I was
bag
like,
that-
okay, maybe
Squeeze.
Peter's a little bit guilty here.
Is that OPA still in
Yeah,
there?
just this one though.
Remains in
Ah.
there? So you're bagging to bring oxygen in, and I assume.
You know, now that we can hear it, this trial is actually pretty good.
What is your next step in the process? Do you guys do a rotation? Do you stay on bag? Are you being directed by Cooper to do something different?
No, I was strictly airway the whole call.
Okay. So you continue, is there a process or is there a count or is there a system that you do when it comes to airway and other life-saving stuff?
Oh, airways first. If they're still the heartbeat.
Okay. Do you know if he has a heartbeat at this time?
It was shortly after we started doing all this suction. I noticed his chest wasn't moving anymore.
Okay. And what is that consistent with?
Not breathing.
Okay.
Apnea.
And as a result of not breathing or apnea, what steps are taken?
I checked for a carotid pulse on his neck.
Did you find a pulse?
He was pulseless and apneic.
Okay. And apneic just means
Not breathing.
not breathing. Okay. So at the carotid, does anybody else check pulse?
I don't recall. To be honest with you.
Is there other places on the human body that you can check for
You can
pulse?
check femoral, down in your leg, you can check radial pulses.
Okay.
There are also multiple places you can check.
Okay. So at this time, he's got no pulse. You don't see him breathing. What takes place?
CPR started immediately.
Okay. And
In the
CPR
same manner?
In what manner?
I don't think they
Is
would.
there- is
It would
there
have
a
to
system
be
I know it's basically
like
what
if
is the
somebody
system?
intentionally injected you
we
with
put the combi pads on them,
insulin
which are pads that go
to create
on the right and left, so mid-axillary.
this
and
outcome, then
perpendicular.
yeah, they would be
We need to
charged.
shock
But
their heart, and then we have
if a doctor
a CPR
gave
feedback
you
of
a
the puck that goes on the
medication
chest, and we
that
do compressions.
they felt you
It's just,
needed,
part of the monitor
and
that
it-
tells you
and
if
it
you're fast enough, deep
had
enough,
this
releasing
catastrophic
enough,
result,
like,
most
do
doctors
100,
wouldn't get
120
charged. That's why they have malpractice
Compression.
insurance.
Okay. What about bagging?
Yes, so we'll bag every 6 seconds.
And again, you're not being rotated out of that. Your sole purpose
Strictly
is,
the only ones that rotate will be the.
I would
ones
think
that go to
anyway.
CPR
That's
for 2
my-
minutes.
okay. And that's common.
Yes,
Okay. And it's part of your protocol.
yes.
Is it common in protocol for you to stay in that position?
My
at the airway
understanding
and
of
not
the
be moving?
situations.
It's not listed in protocol for that.
But if, I guess staffing wise, would that, so if there was not enough people there, could you have been moved to some other location?
I don't know if I
I
can
mean,
quite understand what you.
So
They
again,
could be charged
No,
the
No, I mean,
same
it's
as these
still
guys
on-
have been charged,
Right.
so it's airway.
It's
but I
not
don't
a-
think they usually are.
The ones that rotate.
Not usually.
If for some reason, someone else in EMT can bag and I have to push ALS drugs.
I don't- like the only time you hear about
And ALS drugs are.
doctors or nurses getting
You know,
charged
any
or when
ALS
they're,
drugs were pushed
you
in
know,
this case? Did you push any ALS drugs?
the angel of death or
Did you see
whatever, where they're
ALS
actually
drugs?
going out
No, I heard they were being pushed.
ending lots
Do you
of
know
people
what type of drug it was? That
or
was
babies or whatever the hell the case is, right?
It's
When they're
an adrenaline,
intentionally
so
doing
it's
it. You
one of
don't
our-
really
it's our
hear
first round
about
drug
a
if we have a
malpractice
cardiac arrest
thing getting people locked up forever.
and I understand it's common practice for you,
Not
but what
forever,
was-
but you don't,
Hopefully it kickstarts the heart.
Okay,
it's
that's the
a
purpose of it.
smaller amount of time
Is there a
for,
method to have it administered?
Sure,
Is there a better
sure.
way, a worse way, is there a common practice?
IV or IO,
And IO stands for,
interosseous.
okay,
So it's, you drill into their shin.
okay. And which way was it? And do you remember who did that?
No.
You know. Okay. Is that a common practice?
Yes.
Okay. And by doing that, is that better than going IV?
Yes.
Okay, and why is it better?
It goes into the bone marrow, which gets.
I'm not saying it's never happened. I'm just typically it wouldn't, I don't
So
think.
once the ALS medication had been, do we know if it was administered
Yeah.
one more time?
2 rounds.
it definitely
Is that common
happened.
practice?
Yeah, we can
For,
roll up to
I
3.
mean, but it's negligence, you
Is
know,
there a difference in
Right.
field
unless it was
medication?
intentional.
Sure there is.
Um,
You'd have to ask the doctor on
okay.
that.
So, but purpose-wise, you could go up to 3 times in
Under
the
our
field,
protocol, yeah.
under your protocol.
Hi, Jude, by the way. How are you, doll?
So
Glad
2
you're
times
here.
it was pushed.
Correct.
Any response or change in the patient?
At one point at the hospital, I thought I had a rhythm. but
Could
it
be
took
something to
too long
that
check
too,
see if we
John.
had a pulse associated with it. We had an organized rhythm
Okay.
on the monitor.
On the monitor. Is that via the leads or something that would have
The
been?
combi pads, so there were limb leads on and combi pads on.
Limb leads leading machine, wires that are attached to the body and
Correct,
hooked to a machine.
Takes different pictures of the heart, different angles of the heart.
At any time, are you in contact with medical staff at a hospital?
Yes.
Okay, and tell me about that process.
When we opened the door, they were all waiting there. I asked Fireman Cooper if he wanted to go inside and give the handoff report while we continued our 2 minutes of CPR.
And what was that decision? Did you go in or did he go in?
He went in
Okay.
and do the handoff report.
You
to the
remained
NVrder.
on the bag?
Yes.
Okay. Let me back up. Are you prior to being transport or prior to transport or movement from the ambulance to the hospital, are you in contact with anybody at a hospital?
Biophone,
Okay.
a phone call in.
And biophone is what?
It's a dedicated phone line that only EMS personnel have a phone number to. We call in every single patient we bring into the hospital, give them a heads up of what we have, what we're bringing in, and our ETA.
And who would have made that phone call?
I don't know who called.
Okay.
That's
someone made that phone
terrifying.
call.
We always do.
Okay. The standard practice.
Yes.
When you guys are transporting, you're calling the hospital and letting them know the symptoms or behavior of the patient.
If our hands are full, sometimes we'll just radio to dispatch, have them call. Here's what we have. Here's our ETA.
Okay. But best of your knowledge, it was done by biophone?
Yes.
Okay. From start to finish, do you remember how long you were on scene?
I didn't even look, so I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
It'd be a very rough guess.
I don't want you to guess. If you, did anybody tell you besides your own observations? You saw the person in handcuffs and you saw his behavior and you said it was consistent with that of someone under the influence of something that causes the excited delirium.
Or just excited delirium itself. I don't know if he was under anything, to be honest with you.
Did you ever get told he was on any drugs? Okay. Did anybody ask you to find out if he was on any drugs?
No.
Okay. Is it common practice or protocol that you to not have that
He was
information
told he
It's
was
a-
under drugs.
about what that person is on? Does that make sense?
No.
So if you show up on a scene and the person is acting in a way, do you have a way to find out if they're under drugs? Or is
The
it just
quote
your
was, "He's
training
definitely on
and
something."
And common practice. to
Yeah.
say this person's behavior is consistent with A, B, C, and D.
If we get the information, that's helpful, but it doesn't change the way we treat him.
Okay.
If that,
Yes. So if they had said he was smoking marijuana, but he's acting this way, are you still following your protocol?
correct, yeah, it doesn't change the way I treat him.
Okay. No matter the behavior of the person or symptoms of the person.
No, I pass that information on to the hospital, so they're aware.
Okay. And at any time, do you know, or was any information passed on to the hospital staff about illicit drug use or alcohol?
Unknown.
And that's basically how it's told to the medical staff?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any, or looking at the protocol, is there any way that you don't go? I mean, I say that you go to the, if A goes to here, then you're gonna follow the box, right? The matrix goes this way. Is there a reason not to go this way if they are acting this way? Like to go down and use benzodiazepines or medzos, right?
Percent.
Right, versus going to use ketamine.
We didn't get down that far. If you follow the box for the algorithm, you don't get down to that spot where you can get to give percent.
Okay, and then
Algorithm.
What is he talking about?
no, that's just memorable. It's under medications, under ketamine itself, and it says. Let's see. So it shows in here.
I think he used the wrong word.
Description, and then it says is it onset and duration, indications, and so on. So side effects, and then it says the dosage is, and again, that's your estimate, right?
Why does it keep skipping stuff?
And because of his behavior, he didn't meet the 400. So the next step
What's
is
skipping?
because there's not a way to do a less or a different.
Like
I mean,
words.
You know how much you gave them.
Okay, so knowing that it's, I'm sorry, I think you said is 3, 4, 5.
Is what we're
So
talking
small,
about.
excuse me, small, medium, large. And the training that you got on ketamine, who provided that? Do you recall? Falk did. So they're medics or they're doctors or medics. Okay. Are they? And you said we, Aurora Fire, received permission to use it. I don't know what the wording would be. That it becomes part of your protocol about a year or so ago. Correct?
To use ketamine?
To use ketamine.
Yes.
From
our medical director.
Okay. And so the Aurora Fire Department has a medical director. Correct. And this was the first time that you've used ketamine?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Was the response consistent with the dosage?
Yes.
And did they tell you if?
And it was the medical
if A
director
happens,
that
then B should be the next.
kind of
step?
changed
Part of
us
the protocol? Or
more
was
on
it
the
under
guilty
ALS to
side
say, like,
or
they gave
innocent
the
side
drug,
yesterday.
He stopped resisting, he calmed down. We were able to
No,
get him on the
medical
next
examiner.
step was because of his body doing something. Does that make sense?
No.
So the drugs were administered. The patient was put on a pram in soft restraints. Brought him to
No,
the-
because this isn't.
We're watching a
Uh,
video.
making sure everything
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
this is
steps
the
that he needs to take,
interrogation
looking at
video
police,
of
blood
Lieutenant
pressure,
Peter
vitals.
Chichuniec.
Then
So
because
he
of the-
it might be something
the
along those
patient
lines in the
reimbursement,
interview
right?
room.
Is it-
Also, we're
the next
listening
steps that
to
you followed are part
a
of your
video
protocol, correct?
through the
So airway.
court
And what's the
mics,
next step?
so that the
CPR. Okay. So
audio
those
isn't
three
going to be
steps,
great
and then when
anyway.
you go from that point. If none of this if he doesn't respond, you're running emergency to the hospital. No matter what, he's going to the hospital. At any time, did anybody tell you that he had appeared to go unconscious or unconscious when you had arrived on scene?
No.
Okay. No one of that information was ever said to you?
Nothing was passed on to me. No.
Okay. By any of the law enforcement out there?
Correct.
Okay.
That was a lie.
They didn't say he was
Anything that
unconscious.
I'm not asking, correct?
He said that nothing was
The administering
passed
of
along to
the-
him.
And protocols that you
They told him.
follow per your matrix and per.
But they carotid him twice, once successfully.
So, and I assume, like most, if A happens, we go to B. If B happens, go to C.
You follow the
Sometimes,
algorithm
and sometimes it leads you
to a new
to
algorithm.
an algorithm in that case. And so be it if it's the algorithm for the administration or administering of ketamine, or the fact that or the patient pours out. There's always a protocol set in place, or is there always?
I guess that could have been the fire
that A
truck.
happens, you go to
He
B.
might not have been there yet when that was said.
Couldn't say that for every single symptom out there. Every single, I mean, you can't write a protocol for everything.
Correct. Okay.
So
Consistent behaviors or best practice. Like if this person does this, then you're most likely going to do this. Not saying it's 100%. Sometimes you have to go left instead of going right. That makes sense.
it covers the most general.
Okay, and that's just part of the process. And both through your own experience as a seasoned paramedic and as a supervisor. And I assume in the 13 years that you've encountered probably some crazy things, seen different behavior.
Yes.
Right. So, but this was, you have dealt with people who have shown the same behavior of excited delirium in the past.
Yes.
And although ketamine was new to this, that is the drug to use for that behavior and diagnosis, or however you word it, for excited delirium.
Correct. We follow your protocol. Yes.
And your behavior was you followed the protocol from start to finish.
Correct.
And then you guys attempted all ALS at the time, and then brought him into the hospital for further advanced life-saving. Correct.
Correct.
From the handoff specifically at the hospital, where were you in that process?
What position was I in?
Yeah.
The airway.
So are you running?
he was
the pram,
definitely there.
riding on the pram?
I'm walking behind it.
Okay. But are you still squeezing if need be in that process? And Cooper is handing off paperwork or
A verbiage report, an oral report to the staff there.
okay. And the patient is, what happens to the patient? Where you go from while you're walking in there, what do they do with the patient?
We transfer them over to their bed and then we're done with our treatment.
Okay. Do they, I mean, I assume they come in and you guys switch roles?
Yes.
Okay. Is that what happened?
Yes, they run the call from there. The doctors take over.
From that point, what happened?
We take our monitor off and clean up. We're outside the room.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what happens in the.
That's what I mean. I mean, so you guys are done there.
Yeah, we walk
The
out.
medical staff from the hospital is now in control of the patient.
Correct, yep. We transfer patient care.
And then where do you guys go from there? Other than clean up, and are you back on the road?
Correct. Once we have all our supplies back in, we go back in service.
Okay. Do you restock there?
Yes, from Falk.
Okay. So Falk gives you guys everything.
Yes, we restock from them.
Okay. Do you know what, and maybe you don't know, what happens to the vial after it's been used?
I don't know.
Okay. Did you see the vial? And I apologize, you may have mentioned this previously. The vial that he had shown to Cooper while you were around.
Sound right now, correct.
Okay. And that's Cooper confirmed that the dosage and the drug itself.
Correct. Okay. We have 5 rights. I think our protocol says 6 rights, but we run 5 rights. Right patient, right drug, right dose, right route, right time.
Okay. Next question. So, okay, so all those are standard,
Yes, yeah.
standard
Make sure.
protocol, and so you're not giving something that you didn't ask for.
Correct.
And so that conforming that process through your 5 steps or 6 steps is consistent in your protocol.
Yes.
One thing I would want to go back to some additional clarification. When you first arrived, you described coming up and seeing, the individual who was detained by an officer. I think you described his legs, lower legs are crossed. An officer down there holding those down, and the other officer on the body.
Correct.
And he's handcuffed. So is he handcuffed front or back?
Back.
So is he laying, on his back, on his stomach, on his side?
He was prone on his stomach, so Fireman Cooper asked him a few times to put him on his side.
Okay, and so and the officer was on his, and you said that he's actively resisting, or what kind of behavior? I guess further, what kind of behavior you're seeing from that patient?
The patient fighting him off.
I mean, and when you're saying fighting, I mean, obviously he's handcuffed.
Right, so he can't swing his arms.
So Is it just violent, shaking, moving his body?
Body movements.
And you can see the officers reacting to that. So it's not like
Struggling to control
so
him.
he's pushing the officers kind of off by his body movement.
Correct.
Which leads you to the strength of or the size, because he said that there's a lot of clothing on, which could potentially disguise the size of somebody. And because what you're seeing, you described as exciting delirium.
No, he didn't have a lot of clothing on. I just said the type of clothing
Right.
he had on. So
And I can imagine it's dark because it was around 11ish. And what kind of lighting? What did you see? I mean, was it lit up there? Did they have like a lit part? Or was it just kind of ambient light? Do you recall?
just what street lights were there. We're at the corner of Evergreen and Billings.
Okay, so enough light that you could see some individuals, but not like this. Obviously,
Correct.
Right? And so, any other thing that stood out to you as far as his behavior or officer, anything that you get a visual of not being there, that would indicate, the resistance or the behavior of that individual to show his demeanor at that time.
Just his hyper aggressive strength.
And was it in saying, yelling,
If you look in his eyes, no one was home, just staring straight
was
ahead.
there any kind of language
Because
coming out of his?
this guy is a
grunting,
defendant,
nothing?
and
No, not
he
that I
has
heard.
the
I mean,
right
there was
to
a lot
not
of
be on the
commotion going on
stand.
from everybody. So
The state can't call him.
Specific to that, where were you all? Now you're saying you're on the corner, you're on the street, sidewalk,
in the lawn for the apartments there.
and like Medic Cooper asking him, and through your training also, put him on his side. What is that for?
That protects their area.
But he was actively resisting the entire time.
Correct.
And although you couldn't hear if he was saying something,
Redundant
his specific
thought.
behavior was consistent with that.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
With actively resisting. Did you ever see him kick anyone?
I don't recall, but it's kind of ringing a
Also
bell.
Kick anybody, but I know he's flailing around. So if he kicked somebody, then I didn't specifically see him wind back and hit somebody or kick him.
And you described his strength, abnormal strength?
Correct.
Did you see, do you recall what he was wearing? I know we talked about it or the initial call, but when you saw him, do you recall what he had on?
He had a
Didn't
jacket
they
on.
just do another chick
Once he pulled the jacket
like
down,
that?
It looked like a tank top on
She
him.
was like a
The
caretaker, and they
jeans, if I remember correctly.
It was
was
eye
Pants
drops.
of some sort.
yeah, the eye drop
You-
case.
you-
Wasn't that
did
kind of
you-
the same
did-
That's
situation?
different.
I did not.
Yeah, I guess it would be.
Until
I guess it would
That's
be
did-
or
poisoning.
poisoning. Yeah.
Do you recall anything being on his head?
Not that I recall, because I could see his face.
Did you see him vomit
That makes sense.
outside of the MGs?
There was emesis on the ground and around his mouth. I didn't see him vomit, but there was vomit there.
Nemesis is, I mean, I'm sorry, it was
Wait,
consistent with vomit
so he
by
just-
being in his mouth. He had to have vomited.
Changed his.
Anything you would like clarified at this time?
Yeah, if you could ask him what specifically, so we've talked about excited delirium, but what were his specific observations of the patient that led him to that conclusion?
Specifically on what you saw on this patient and his behavior, you described as excited delirium. What did you, as detailed as you can be, what was this patient doing and what led you to believe that that's met the criteria?
Hyperaggression, the super strength he had. You look in his eyes, no one's home. So disoriented, tachycardic.
How did you even
tachypneic,
see his eyes?
diaphoretic.
Right.
Great terms. What do they mean?
As he was pinned to the
Tachypneic is you're breathing
ground.
really, really fast.
Okay.
Tachycardic
Wait.
is your heartbeat is just going so fast. Diaphoretic is your sweat.
How would they know?
Okay. All three of those were
They
Did you hear
should-
that?
Tachycardic, sweaty, and what else?
They said, so I didn't hear the first one, but one of them was his heartbeat was going really fast and that he was sweaty. But I didn't hear the first one. But like, how would they know what his heartbeat was when they didn't check it?
They didn't at all. They didn't have their hands on him until after.
And they didn't even look at his eyes. So how would they know
No.
any of that?
They wouldn't. This is all him saying the right words. Super strength, looked like nobody was home. They weren't anywhere
Yeah.
near his face. They couldn't have known any of these things. He's saying what he knows the description of excited delirium is.
taking place.
Yeah,
And
plus the
just
strength,
train-
plus the disorientation of just looking at him, just not being there.
Okay.
He's there, but he's not there.
Anything else that you recall was behavior-wise? Okay. And I know we talked about it through your training experience and everything that is consistent with what?
Excited delirium.
Exactly.
That's when we went down that route.
Okay.
All the magic words.
Anything else? So that's fine. As officer in charge and paramedic, I understand Cooper was the paramedic.
And they're going to have another video with Cooper too.
Hey, pause,
That's
pause,
his
pause, pause, pause.
control, span of control. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So
Okay, what'd you say?
They're going to have another video like this of Cooper because they're
Probably.
they're agents of the state. So after an incident, they're going to have these interview videos. So even if Cooper doesn't take the stand as well, they're going to still have this video. I would assume. What were you going to say?
No, I just didn't want to. I don't want his answer to get muddled.
Drowned out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would assume that both of these guys are going to have this interrogation video like this interview video.
Yeah. I mean, I would think that they would both have the video. I don't know. I wasn't paying attention at the beginning, or we probably would have heard that.
Possibly.
he's in charge of medical if he's running the call. So whoever's running the call is in charge of that call. They can delegate anyone. A brand new firefighter on 2 weeks can tell me.
Yeah,
what
it's
to
weird
do.
how that works, isn't it?
If they are the one.
If they're the lead.
Okay. And besides you saying, is he okay with ketamine? Do you recall any other discussions on any other drugs?
No.
Okay.
I think there was reference to the medic several times asking to roll the patient on his side. Maybe if you can ask him what he observed when the officers would do that, how the patient would respond.
Okay. So when Medic Cooper asked the officers that you had described originally when the patient was on the ground on his stomach, and he asked them to roll him on the side, what did you see take place both with the patient and his behavior?
He was still fighting. I don't know if he came off the ground and they had to control him, put him back on the ground. So up on his side, down on his side. He was still actively fighting, and I heard him kept yelling, "Stop resisting."
Okay. And you heard officers telling him to stop.
Yes. And I don't know who it was, but I heard him multiple times, "Stop resisting."
Specifically being, I mean, did you see him go from being on his side to back to his stomach with the patient's behavior?
No, I think once we got him on his side and pretty much kept him on his side, that's where we were able to administer ketamine.
Okay. And then again, his behavior consistent with that of excited delirium, and his behavior and your protocols are under the matrix or whatever you want to call it. His excited delirium, the step or drug or sedative to be used is
ketamine.
Okay. So we're going to step out.
Okay.
This is going to continue to record. So I would have you all
What's
step
up, AP? How you doing, buddy?
in the hallway.
Welcome.
And then we'll be back in just a couple minutes. I have to go find out if there's any clarifying questions.
Guten Tag.
And Judge, there's about I think 15 minutes of time while they're out of the room here. We're about 3/4 of the way through this interview. So in terms of how you want to proceed logistically, we could skip forward to the last quarter, or we could take our time break.
Why don't we take our break now? You can fast forward to whenever the folks come back to the room, and then we'll play from there. We'll take our mid-morning break at this time. Don't form or express any opinions yet. Don't discuss the case even amongst yourselves. Do no independent research. Please avoid any press coverage. We'll see you in about 15 minutes.
Make sure that nothing pops up without the jury before they leave.
The court will be in recess.
So nothing. Okay.
Jury's returned. Please be seated. The court will
That sucks.
formally recall 21 CR 2800 and 2806. The parties and counsel are present. The jurors are back. You can continue with the exhibit.
I'm going to leave you alone for a couple minutes if you're all right with that.
Yeah, that's fine. Cool.
2:45.
All right, I'll be right back.
Yeah,
Okay.
returning back into the room. No one else has been in the room since we left. Pardon? I'm sorry, 1:45. Thank you. I have a couple questions for you. And I know we went right into your hire. Do you have any prior experience as a firefighter or military training regarding medic, EMT, or anything of that nature?
No, just got my EMT when I was working as a mechanic at West Metro Fire.
How long did you work at West Metro?
2.5 years.
And then you came from there, but other than EMT, nothing outside of that?
No.
Okay. Can you tell me when you realized the effects of the drug on the patient after it had been administered?
Say
What effects did you notice on the patient once the drug had been administered?
he wasn't fighting as much. Started to ramp down.
Which was, how would you describe it from before so you're saying it ramped down, meaning
APD was able to control him.
okay. Is there a certification that you have or recertification to use ketamine? So is it like once you went through the training, is there an annual training, biannual training? Is there anything on ketamine or drug administration or specific to ketamine itself?
Well, in order to maintain my paramedic status, you have to do CEs, which is continuing education, and you have to hit it in different fields and medications. One of them, there's a bunch of different categories that you have to hit to get certain hours in.
And I'm sorry, is it an annual certification to keep your?
I keep national registry, which is 2 years. State is 3 years.
Okay.
So when I do national registry, I just automatically turn it into the state. So
Okay, but by that you'll meet all the criteria for state because it's on national level.
correct, yes.
And each different caveat for certification, but specifically for drugs, there's one. Or the administering of narcotics, or is that what it is?
It just falls under, it could fall under medication administration, behavioral, whatever you do, you fill out a category.
Okay, and since you went to this training, where are you in your certification process right now?
Expires March of 2020.
And I know when I asked originally regarding the ketamine, is there a reason why Falk carries it right now versus you all? I know we hadn't talked about it, but
Different vendors and there's some back order.
okay, that's the only reason why?
Correct.
Okay. And is it an agreement between Aurora Fire Department and Falk Ambulance Service for them to carry it?
As far as
Like that's why
it falls under the protocol of the drug that we can give. So
Good question, I guess. So meaning like it's like an interagency agreement, basically, because you guys don't have it, they have it. And it's limited supply right now because their vendor has it, your vendor does not, correct?
I would assume that's why it's a limited supply. I couldn't tell you because I don't know the vendors. I don't know who they get them from. So
But
wherever they get it from, they have
they
access
have
to it.
access to it.
Yes.
Aurora Fire Department does not have access to it right now.
From what I've been told, it's on back order.
Okay. When you were describing small, medium, large, the 300, 400, 500 dosing, which is not in, unless I'm missing a piece of the protocol. And is there a written down policy that shows like for small, medium, and large? Or how did you guys learn that outside of the specific training?
It was the training we got from Falk.
Okay. So, but we don't have it. Do you have it written down anywhere in policy or procedure?
Why were they getting the training from Folk?
But the way it was, where the way you were trained specifically, small equals 300, medium equals 400, and large equals 500.
Correct.
Can you explain the dosing math to me? So if we break it down, you estimated, and so what is the term that they use? So it's 5
milligrams per kilogram.
5 milligrams per kilogram, and you estimated his weight to be
approximately 85 kilograms.
Okay, so 85 kilograms approximately is equates to
185, 190.
Okay, so 190. So for the dosing amount, what does that come out to be? If you know the math.
If you do 85 kilograms times 5, or so 25, 425.
Okay, so at 425, and then so 2 times plus 10
is up per to figure out.
Okay,
from kilograms to pounds.
Okay, so the plus 10 would put him at, would put the dose at what? So the 425, so 10% of the 425, is that, or?
No, I think you're looking at it wrong.
Okay, so explain it to me, because that's my question.
So to figure out the weight, 85 kilograms, 5 milligrams per kilogram, so 85 times 5.
Okay,
and that's it.
So 425, and then so the 2 times plus 10 is just.
That's to convert kilograms to pounds. So if you want to know how many pounds is he, quick estimate, if you say someone's a 50 kilogram person, you multiply by 2 and then add 10%.
Okay, that was my confusion.
Okay, yeah, so that's just strictly from kilograms to pounds.
So
that has nothing to do with medication administration.
So the 425 would have been above the 400, below the 500.
Correct.
Okay. And I know that you described the needle as what's the dosage on the needle?
A 5 cc. It was a syringe.
Okay, sorry. So 5 cc syringe.
Correct.
And there's no other, again, just my simplicity. There's no other lines. So there's 3, 4, and 5 on that syringe. So we couldn't do.
It should go half 1, half 2, half 3, half 4, half 5.
Okay. And since it was above 400, you automatically go to 500?
Yes, from the training. Yep.
Okay. So instead of doing 4.5 on the syringe, you went right 5.
Correct. Because of the state that he was in and how he presented.
Okay.
In the training we got, that if he falls above that, we're not going to go down, because then we have to call in for additional if it doesn't work.
Okay. So on that, who grants the authority to use ketamine?
Dr. Hill, our medical director.
And why is it that the fire department just got permission to use ketamine in the last year?
Yeah, his math works out, but it's a weird way to do
It's
it.
been around for quite some time.
It has.
And then to clarify, you said this is the first time you used ketamine. Was it the first time you requested ketamine, or the first time it was used in your presence, or has it been used in your presence prior to this?
No, I've requested it multiple times, but we never had it. So this is the first time we had it, and I was able to administer it for the right symptoms.
Had you seen it used previously? Or that today, this incident was the very first time?
No, I've seen it used
In the field?
in the field, in the hospital.
Okay. By Aurora Fire? Or by somebody else?
Or both. Aurora Fire.
I thought they didn't have it.
I'm trying to think who else. I think it's all I can recall right now.
But in your presence, it has been administered by a firefighter from Aurora?
Not in front of me, no.
Okay. But you know it had, but you know.
I've seen
He's
it.
a liar.
We've talked to them about it, what are the results, other shifts that gave it. But have I seen it pushed directly on somebody in front of me? Just this time we did.
Okay, just this time. Can you explain
Wow.
to me specifically?
Yeah, he's not being completely truthful, I don't think.
At all.
Occur absent of drug and alcohol use.
Yeah, from my training, yes, it's a medical condition.
Okay, specifically to that, I know we don't want to, but can you explain that to me? So outside, absent, it can occur absent of any drug use or alcohol use. They are not, it's not a direct cause and reaction.
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, but it is a medical condition.
Yes, yes,
And you were trained on that medical condition.
yes.
Is that part of the paramedic training, or is it a broad training? Does that make sense? Are you trained about excited delirium when you were a boot firefighter?
Boot.
No, not that I can recall. I don't know if I really understand what you're.
Well, I mean, have you been told about excited delirium outside of paramedic training?
Oh, I've heard about it. Yeah, and I've read about it and do CEs to keep up with my education and my hours.
And you mentioned mental health and mental training when it comes to your CEs, part of under
That's
that.
one of the categories.
Okay. Can that be covered in that?
Oh, it can be, yes.
Does it also have training specific to that under physiological reactions as a result of being under excited or having the same symptoms of excited delirium?
As far as what?
Like their body movement, the way you describe it, the sweat and everything else. So that is all part of that.
Yeah, signs and symptoms.
Symptoms of excited delirium. Is ketamine new across the nation to be used through fire or just new to
I couldn't answer that. I know it's been out there, but I don't know how long, so I couldn't give you an accurate answer on that.
And do you know why it's just recently been approved to use through fire?
I don't.
Okay. Just, you don't know, or is it outside of it?
It's above my decision making. I know we've asked for it for a while.
Just because you know the benefits of it, or when you say you ask for it, is that through a process that you contact Dr. Hill and say, we'd like to have this?
We have a chain of command we follow, so I have to pass it up my chain of command.
Okay. But in your experience, you've asked for it in the past, and they didn't have it, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Do you know the symptoms of any kind of symptoms that would be consistent with a overdose of ketamine?
Yeah, hypersalivation, so they salivate, they drool a lot. That's one of the side effects of it. Rare conditions and the rest.
Sure.
Cardiac
arrest. Okay. Did patient display?
He just admitted to knowing that
I couldn't
cardiac
see
arrest was a
the
possible side effect,
And then the cardiac arrest.
and they didn't monitor him.
Apparently.
Yes, he wasn't breathing, which set us down. Our other protocol to treat that. So we were done with the excited delirium, the fatted agitated patient protocol.
Anything that you'd like to clarify?
That's not a good look.
Anything that you'd like to clarify?
I guess the only thing I would like to push back on the training that was presented to you, there's a protocol. And I know we've all been through trainings, a lot of times there's a lot of paperwork, but it doesn't, it's given, and we review, we go through, but it's not actually part of the protocol. Is there any other?
Hey, Moni G.
That was supplied to you when you're doing this training?
Not that I have, it was just PowerPoints and
So was it part of the PowerPoint that it said, in general rules?
It seems that way, yeah.
The 300 to 400 to 500.
I don't remember if it was in the PowerPoint or if it was just over. We just don't.
And that was who supplied that training?
Fault.
And was it just
Appreciate you, babe.
paramedics, or do they have staff that's based on and that does all the training?
Yes, it's a paramedic, but it's they're educational. Correct.
And that was training that was given to all Aurora Fire.
Correct. Yeah, in order to administer ketamine, you have to go through the training.
And on that, you have to be a paramedic.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. It's the only ones that can push drugs. EMTs can't push drugs.
They can push drugs, certain drugs, but ketamine is not one of them.
Okay. But to push ketamine, you have to be a paramedic.
Correct.
And you have to have gone through the training provided by Falk.
Correct.
Okay.
I thought Cooper was an EMT.
I thought Cooper was an EMT.
Is it, do you have to be in contact with the doctor and say, based on what I'm seeing, and you give them, I'm requesting that we use ketamine?
No.
They give it, or is
We have what's called a standing order, so we're allowed to give that medication under their license.
So in the past, when you weren't able to give it, it was the fact that it just wasn't available.
Correct. We didn't have
So
to.
you could have used it, just we didn't have it there.
Would have liked to, yes.
So standing order means what? You said under whose license?
Dr. Hill. So we work under the extension of the emergency room physician's license. Dr. Hill is our medical director.
And he's an employee of Aurora.
A contracted employee. He's an emergency room physician at Aurora South, but he acts as our medical director for Aurora and Falk.
Okay. So it's under one. Although Falk is a contract employee of the city of Aurora, correct?
Correct.
They're not employees of, like you're an Aurora firefighter. It's not Aurora Falk. It's Falk.
Correct. It's Falk is their separate entity.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm just a moment here. Sorry.
Are we can just stretch for a moment while I switch over to the MVrder interview?
Right.
We can do what?
Stretch for a moment.
I think I said wrong. Next one.
The greenish.
What arm?
All right. Today is September 11th, 2019. It is 2:13 p.m. I'm Matty with the local response crime unit, and this is.
Sorry, Scott Hayden, nice to meet you.
And you are, sir?
David Goddard, counsel for Jeremy Cooper.
Jeremy Cooper, you are an employee of the city of Aurora?
Yes, sir.
And you are a firefighter, correct?
Yes.
What is your ID number?
25944,
And how long have you been employed with the city of Aurora?
17 years.
Did you have any previous experience as a firefighter or EMT or paramedic?
8 years previous as a volunteer firefighter and full-time paramedic.
And where was that at?
San Luis Valley.
Hey, Texas Jen. Appreciate you, babe.
8 years and how, and a full-time paramedic?
So yeah, it was a hospital-based paramedic on the ambulance and then volunteer fire department.
So how long in total have you been a paramedic?
About 25.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that my math was correct. Like, and you are a paramedic, firefighter with the city of Aurora?
Yes.
I guess he is a paramedic. All right.
As a medic or that outside of that training?
No.
And you work out of station,
Station 2,
and where's that located?
Hoffman Heights. It's roughly Delmar Circle and Hoffman Boulevard.
And what shift are you on there?
A shift.
And again, your rank is just firefighter, correct?
Yeah.
That's a lesser than
Or,
that means.
Fire medic.
Okay.
So they're rescue techs now, but they called us fire medics back then. It's changed.
It's changed a couple times. Okay. And we're gonna go back and specifically about a specific day and time.
Okay.
Were you dispatched to assist Aurora Police Department, August 24th of this year?
Yes.
On call for service?
Yes.
Okay. You remember about what time and what type of call for service you were dispatched to?
The time, honestly, it was before midnight, maybe between 10 and 11 p.m.-ish. And yeah, dispatched with police assist. What was the other part of the question?
And do you know what the police assist was about?
Initially, no, just a police assist. And then when we got there, we got a little bit more information.
Okay. I assume you left the station? Okay, so you leave the station and head to where you went to.
The initial dispatch was Colfax and Billings.
Did you end up going to Colfax and Billings?
En route, they said that it actually changed it north of there, almost 17th and Billings.
Okay. So I know the positions have numbers and stuff in the rig. Where were you?
My writing position is 2.3.
2.3.
Actually, medic,
So you're facing which direction?
backwards.
Okay. And driving the rig was, you know, the person.
Oh, the person, yeah, it was De Jesus, like, yeah, to Jesus, like, on this.
Okay.
De
I
Jesus.
feel like the defense.
And who was sitting?
Wow.
passenger?
I feel like defense might have wanted to
Okay.
cross on some of this, but
Was firefighter Bradley.
obviously not.
Anybody else in the rig? No. Okay. So you respond to the area of, or updated at 17th and Billings, correct? Upon your arrival, what do you see?
So we saw a couple of police cars and some officers with another party on the east side of the road, kind of in a little.
I guess they really didn't have much to cross on.
Okay. Do you see what's going on at that time?
So it looks like they have a party detained and there's several officers trying to hold the party down.
And describe what they're doing or what the person on the ground is doing.
So the person on the ground seemed to be fairly combative and aggressive with the officers. So it was one of the officers kind of approached us as we were walking up to the scene and advised us of what the call was and what had led up to that point.
And what did that officer tell you? Did he tell you specifically or did he tell all of you?
It was more or less talking to my officer, but we're all standing in the vicinity, so we all get the story. What he told my officer was they were called for a party at roughly Colfax and Billings that seemed to be confused or altered, and they encountered somebody that was wearing a mask, didn't seem to be making a lot of sense, seemed to be aggressive, and that's when he ended up in cuffs. I'm assuming they were detaining him.
You described them detaining him. Describe the actions of the person. Was he doing anything or was he just sitting there?
Of the
Person that was on the ground with the officers.
patient. So he was lying face down, kind of there in the grass, was handcuffed behind his back, and several officers trying to hold him down on the ground to keep control of him.
And why were they trying to, what were they doing and what was he doing that was causing that action?
He seemed to be fairly aggressive and a little bit hyper aggressive, just non-compliant, I guess would be a word. to it.
Hyper aggressive.
So they were trying to hold him down and figure out maybe why he was being that way, or at least detaining him so they can figure things out.
Was he kicking people?
I don't know if he ever kicked anybody.
And you're saying they're holding him down in his behavior. Were they struggling to hold him down?
Yes, they were having to work pretty good to keep him down.
And what, so I mean, I guess I'm going to ask a question. What was he physically doing? I mean, was he trying to run away? Was he trying to wiggle out? Was he screaming anything? Was he saying
He
anything?
was trying to wiggle out, is a good word for it, trying to get away, trying to stand up, trying to kneel up. So that's why they were continuing to hold him down so he couldn't do so.
And did they give you any other information when you got there besides his behavior?
No, pretty much just what they encountered up to that point.
Okay. How's the lighting outside?
It was dark.
Was there a street light?
I don't know if there was a street light at that specific intersection.
Could you physically see the person on the ground?
I could see the person on the ground, yes.
Okay. Do you recall what that person was wearing?
I don't.
But you were able to physically see his bodily movements.
Yes.
That's the way to put it. Yes, sir. His resistance that you described.
Mhm.
Did he have any communication with you? Did you have any communication with the patient?
He didn't have any communication with me. It didn't seem like he was ever forming any sentences. A lot of gibberish, a lot of yelling, things that I couldn't understand. They weren't words, they were just noises, grunts, things like that. There was a couple times that I approached the patient, tried to ask him some questions as far as a name, any kind of medical problems, but never got any kind of sensible language back as an answer.
Okay. And did you try that multiple times to get any information from him?
We did initially, and then again, once he became a little more sedated, we attempted, and it still didn't ever get any sensible speech information.
So we back up. Why were you called?
So we were called, I'm assuming, because police thought it might be medical nature of what was going on, of why he was acting the way he was.
Upon your arrival, what did you determine, or what was the behavior that led to a process? So did you see him displaying anything other than or consistent with any behaviors, or consistent with any issues or known problems?
I did. Once I watched his behavior for a minute or so, I thought that he was in the excited delirium protocol that we follow, given some of his signs and symptoms and his actions.
And can you tell me what that, are you familiar with your protocol?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have a copy of it if you want. Okay. So excited delirium protocol, can you tell me?
So the signs and symptoms that I'm seeing with him with excited delirium was he was very diaphoretic or sweaty. And I mean, profusely
They have-
diaphoretic, just
Literally have it right there in front of
He
them.
was very hyper aggressive, certainly not compliant with the officers, and seemed to have strength that was not normal strength. Again, there were several officers on him at all times, and he was continually trying to come up off the ground, wiggle out of their stuff, and they were having to work pretty hard, with a handcuffed party, and several officers were working pretty hard to try to keep him down. So that being the case, and his speech not ever making any sense, a lot of gibberish, just a lot of noises, kind of point me in the direction of an excited delirium as opposed to just a normal aggressive party.
Okay. And in your protocol, did you determine at that time that you felt that he was displaying behaviors consistent with someone or with excited delirium?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what is the next step in your protocol?
So the next step in that protocol for us was to keep him safe and try to keep him down so he didn't run off into traffic or whatever, until we could either try to get a set of vitals or give him a chemical sedation to try to get him to where we could handle him safely and not get any of us hurt.
Chemical
Were you
sedation.
able to get any information from him or to learn anything prior to go into that next step?
No, sir. Never got a name from the patient or nor from the officer. Wasn't ever able to obtain vitals as he was still very hyper aggressive. So I made the decision that we were all going to stand back with the officers to continue holding him down until our ambulance got there with our medication to give him.
Good. Do you not carry medication on the fire truck?
We don't carry that specific medication.
And what is that specific?
So that medication is ketamine,
Hi, Sally. How you doing, babe?
sedative.
Glad to see you.
What is it used for? I understand, and pretend like I know nothing, which I don't, which is very true. But, so, sedation, what is it for?
It's for specific patients with excited delirium in our protocol.
Yeah, I wiggle
That
when
means
I'm
something
vomiting,
beyond
too.
our Normal medication, which is Versed for just aggressive people. This is a medication that's a little bit stronger than that Versed for those specific situations, like you said.
Well, and that same excited delirium is what?
The definition of excited.
Do you know the definition?
I don't know the exact definition, but it's somebody that portrays those signs and symptoms that I explained to you for a number of reasons, whether it be
Yeah, for his own
substances,
safety.
some sort of other psychotic element. that they're not able to be controlled for their safety or ours.
Is there one thing that causes excessive delirium?
I don't think there's just one thing that causes this. I've been aware of.
Could be absent of something, but there's a behavior that is, or is there a behavior that you're witnessing that leads you to believe to that?
Yes, our behavior and signs and symptoms.
And signs, symptoms, and behavior were all consistent with that led you to
With this patient being excited and delirium.
So, whose decision or who makes the decision? And let me back up. What was your role in this call?
I was the paramedic.
And what does that mean?
So what that means with the Aurora Fire Department is what they have, or what they call medical control, meaning that the officer is in charge of the engine, but I'm in charge of all the medical decisions on scene. So that's what medical control is, as far as me following or deciding the protocol to be followed with both AFD personnel and with all of our transport agencies.
Okay. And you stated that the ketamine is not kept with you all.
No, sir.
Is there a reason why Aurora Fire doesn't?
So the reason Aurora Fire doesn't carry ketamine is it comes in 5 milliliter bottles, which are too large for our current narcotic boxes. Falk carries larger narcotic boxes that are able to hold a larger vial. So until we change over, Falk carries our ketamine.
And I'm sorry, what was the dosage they carry in the bottle? The bottles are what size?
Are roughly 5 milliliter glass bottles.
Okay.
So the diameter of the bottle is too large for our current narcotic boxes.
And those are in the backpack kits that you guys carry?
They're in the lockbox inside the engine. And the
5
lockbox
milliliter
inside.
bottles, pretty tiny.
So do you request the ketamine?
Yes, sir.
How do you request the ketamine?
I requested through my officer to advise the ambulance upon their arrival. One of the things I needed was ketamine.
Okay.
I thought the other guy said he requested it.
How do you estimate, or what is the dose protocol?
He
So
did.
the dose protocol is 5 milligrams per kilogram.
And what does that mean?
So that means every kilogram of weight for the patient requires 5 milligrams of the drug, in this case, ketamine.
And a kilogram is roughly 2.2.
2.2 pounds, yes.
Looking at the patient, what size?
I put him about 200 pounds, a little bit shorter than 6 foot.
And what would be a dose for that?
That would be 500 milligrams because that put him at about 100 kilograms.
So mathematically, that comes out to what, is it directly at 500 or is it less than? Or do you
500 milligrams is the dose for 100 kilograms.
Okay, so 100 kilograms is what, 220 estimate, right?
Thereabouts.
Okay, so 220
No, it's not.
divided by 5.
No, it's not.
Not at
How
all.
do you break that down, or am I not doing the math correctly? Or how would you do the math?
I do the math per kilogram. So roughly, somebody about 200 pounds is roughly 100 kilograms. So when you go out for 100 kilograms for 5 milligrams per kilo, it's 500 milligrams.
Okay, is that a standard dosage or is it weight specific?
It is weight specific in the protocols. However,
Bless
we
you.
aren't able to weigh the patients. So you kind of have to give a best estimate of the patient's weight, especially in that state.
So looking at me, what would you estimate me dose wise?
I would probably put you a little over 200 pounds. So you're kind of within that 200 to 220 pounds, about 500 milligrams.
Okay. And for yourself?
About the same.
Okay.
A little bit better than 230 or 220.
So is there, so you decide on the 500?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you direct the officer in charge, what was his name?
My
your-
fire officer
Yes.
is Lieutenant Chichuniec,
Okay, and so you directed him to contact,
the Falk ambulance, who wasn't on scene yet.
okay,
That we would need ketamine as well as their gurney and soft restraints.
okay. During this process, are you eyes on the patient?
Eyes on the patient. We were pretty much hands off. There was enough officers on scene, kind of handling the patients. We were just there to assist them if they needed it.
So once the Falk arrives, what are the steps that take place?
So the steps that took place was I instructed the Falk medic, because they go EMT and paramedic. I advised the Falk medic to go ahead and draw me at 500 milligrams. I explained to him the patient that we had, the protocol we were following, and roughly what the weight of the patient was. I tried to explain the dosage I was asking him to draw up. And then I asked the EMT on the ambulance to bring their gurney with the soft restraints and bring it close to us, but at a safe distance.
Where did that conversation take place? Were you right next to the patient, or did you get up and go to the rig and talk to him there?
I took a couple steps.
My
towards
ear
the-
still isn't better.
The ambulance, to talk to the medic and tell him what we had.
Colloidal silver is a pretty,
Patient review of you
it's
at
pretty
that point?
amazing
Or
stuff.
you-
He was. I was
Where do you get
in
it?
between the patient
Walmart.
and the ambulance.
It's in
Did
the
the Falk medic come out and talk to you?
medicine area at Walmart.
So would he have been able to observe
What
the
about the pharmacy?
patient from where he was at?
He might
I'm
have.
sure they would.
He was able to observe it.
I'm sure
So
they
you told
will.
him what you had, an estimated weight, and what dosage that you were requesting?
Yes.
Okay, and then what happens?
So what happens at that point was he drew up the medication for me.
I use it to treat my goats when they get pink eye.
Close to us.
And
we
it's,
Oh, really?
went out
oh yeah,
to
you can use it in people too, from what I understand. Not medical advice, but it's pretty fast acting. You should get rid of it
We
within
were all on the same page.
like 24 to 48 hours.
And then I administered the medication.
Okay, I wrote a
Do
note.
you remember the
There you
expiration
go.
date, or
No, sir, I do.
do you know what the, is there do they expire? Do you know their expiration?
Here
Is it
could have been all better
years,
days
5
ago.
months?
I'm not sure of the shelf life for ketamine.
Okay. So you administered the, okay,
Yes, sir.
okay. Where did you administer it? Patient?
If I remember correctly, it was the right deltoid, the right shoulder area.
Aw,
And while you were administering.
I hope it doesn't.
Still actively fighting. Anytime that the patient would try to be placed kind of on his side, he would try to walk up
Oh, that's
the
funny.
grassy embankment, try to fight with the officers. So as he was quickly put onto his side, administered the medication while they were kind of holding the patient there, and then I backed off again.
Remaining in visual
Yes, sir.
or visually aware of the patient at that time, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How long do you observe the patient, or do you notice that, or what are the effects once and behavior of the patient up to from when you administer to? Do you notice any effects of the drug on the patient?
I wasn't timing it exactly, but I approximated it 2 to 3 minutes after we administered the medication that he seemed.
Hey, MG.
That's scary.
And when you say calm a little bit, what do you mean by that?
I mean that the officers were not having to work as hard holding him down. He was still agitated, still trying to wrestle away somewhat, but at a far lesser extent.
At any time, does he stop resisting?
No, sir.
Okay.
Well, not at that point, but he's still handcuffed.
Okay. Once, give me a physical effect on him. You put the syringe, the needle in the arm and dispense the medication.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you describe somewhere between 2 to 3 minutes before you start noticing an effect. And you describe it as if he was less resisting and less combative.
Yes, sir.
I don't know what the words were about, what was said. And then what are the
No.
steps after that?
So the steps after that was I advised the police officers to assist us patients on our gurney. And at that point, I tried to roll him on his side so they can take the handcuffs off so we can apply our soft restraints to restrain the patient to the gurney.
Let me back up. At any time, did you direct the officers to do anything with the patient prior to administering the sedation?
Yes, sir.
And what did you have them do?
So I don't know how many times, but there was a couple of times I tried to get them to have the patient roll to the side so I can kind of get a look at the patient's airway, his face, just to kind of monitor his breathing. But every time within a couple of seconds of them trying to roll them onto the side, that's when he would continue to try to crawl out of their possession, try to walk up this embankment. So pretty quickly, he was having to go back to his stomach.
Trying to walk up an
But he was
embankment.
physically reacting. It doesn't-
It's impressive.
He was
From
doing something.
handcuffed on the ground.
He was never just lying there.
No, sir.
And did
He
they
was never
ever
just
provide
lying
you
there.
with any information on any techniques or arrest control that they had done to the patient?
No, sir, other than they had handcuffed him.
Okay. Did they ever tell you that the patient went unconscious or had anything of that nature been told to you prior to that?
Prior to our arrival?
No, when you arrived? Prior to your arrival, did they ever say that the patient had been unconscious?
No, sir.
Okay. And while you arrived there, they never said anything to that, of that nature to you?
No, sir.
Okay. So you asked for assistance loading the patient onto the gurney?
Yes, sir.
And describe the process of self-restraints and the positions.
So soft restraint application is they have to be placed on their back, and then you restrain first with the seat belts. There's usually 3 across, one across the legs, one across the waist, one across the chest. And then we have commercial soft restraints that kind of run off of a Velcro system, with the left arm being restrained straight down to the patient's side and the right arm being restrained up towards the patient's head.
And there's no reason for that?
For those body positions? Yes, sir. So generally with an ambulance, as the gurney sits in an ambulance, the bench seat that has the most room to kind of do assessments, treatments is on the patient's left. So if you can try to keep that left arm straight for blood pressures, IVs, things like that, as opposed to the right that's usually up against a wall that you don't really have great access to that arm anyway. So with putting the right arm up, it prevents the patient from being able to have body mechanics to sit completely up from the lay down position.
And were the legs restrained?
Via seatbelts, and the soft restraints are placed around the ankles, just straight.
Oh,
Is it a
interesting.
single point or is it a dual point restraint system for those?
So there's a dual point. It's one piece that's attached to the gurney on the underside of either side, and then there's 2 loops attached to that one straight.
We might have a short day, y'all.
And was that the position that the patient was in when he was loaded into the ambulance?
Yes, sir.
And what behavior, if any, or physical response are you getting from the patient at this time?
As we were restraining the patient, he was still somewhat combative. Again, at a lesser state, we were able to restrain him safely. But I also noticed that he had either vomited or had some pink frothy substance coming from his mouth. So that's when I instructed my officer to go ahead and suction that the airway out. And then I took a 4x4 and kind of wiped it off the side of his mouth.
Prior to that, while he was on the ground, did you see him vomit?
No, sir.
Were you advised that he had vomited?
I was advised by PD that he had vomited at some point prior to arrival, only because I heard them tell another officer arriving on scene to not kneel in some emesis that was in the grass or somewhere there, but I never saw it.
The correct term was emesis.
Yes, sir.
Actually, vomit. You said. Okay. Did you ever see anything covering the patient's face when you walked up, when you first arrived there?
Covering the patient's face?
Yes.
No, sir.
Did you ever learn, or were you originally dispatched? Did they ever talk about the clothing that he was wearing?
Not that I was aware of. I don't get the notes in the back, the dispatch notes, but I don't think it was ever relayed to me what clothing he was wearing.
Okay. Was he wearing clothing when you were there?
Yes, sir, he was wearing clothing.
Do you remember? You don't remember the clothing?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay. So he's on the gurney in the ambulance now. You've wiped off the emesis and instructed your officer to start doing suction?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what is the patient doing?
At that point, I kind of noticed that he had some depressed respirations. His respiratory effort was starting to become depressed. So that's when I advised my officer, who was also a paramedic. I pretty much put him in charge of airway, of suctioning the airway, just to make sure we had a clear airway and to start to assist in his inhalations with the bag valve mask.
Is there a process for that?
The process, yes, sir.
Can you tell me the process?
So the process in our case was he suctioned out the airway, and then he applied an oropharyngeal airway, or an OPA, which is a piece of plastic that holds the tongue up the back of the oropharynx, just so the tongue doesn't want to fall back into the airway. And then a bag valve mask has a mask that fits over the nose and the mouth, attached to a bag, attached to an oxygen reservoir that's attached to oxygen, and that's how we supplement their respirations and breathe for them.
Okay. Is that what took place?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you noticed the depression on breathing, and you instructed him to do this, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then what are the next steps that take place?
The next step is to attach an end-tidal CO2 monitor, and that's just a way of measuring the CO2 that the patient is breathing out, which we located and placed on the patient. And to that point, that's all we were.
Okay, so from that point, where does that get placed on the patient?
The end-tidal CO2?
Yes.
It actually is placed in between the mask and the embu bag. It's just a connector.
Okay.
It just connects between the two. That has a tubing that goes to our cardiac monitor. It gives us a numeric value or a waveform for it.
Were you getting any indication that there was CO2 coming out of the patient?
Yes, sir. I don't recall the number.
Okay. So then what's the next step that takes place?
In this call?
Yes.
Okay. So after he had started to suction and ventilate the patient, we noticed that the patient's chest rise had kind of stopped, meaning he wasn't breathing on his own anymore. And then we did a pulse check at the carotid artery and noticed that he did not have a carotid pulse anymore. So we started CPR chest compressions.
What's that process?
That process is to have somebody start doing chest compressions of 30 to 2, being 30 compressions versus 2 ventilations. And that also implies having our cardiac monitor pads go on the patient that shows us electrical rhythm, and a CPR puck, as they call it, that goes over the sternum that kind of counts your compressions and measures your depth.
So that you're doing it correctly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And was all of that done?
Yes, sir.
And the next step is what?
The next step after that was I asked the bulk medic to go ahead and get me IO access or interosseous access. And then I told my officer, who was monitoring the airway, to give me an advanced airway.
Okay. So what does IO access mean?
Is interosseous, it means that a needle is drilled into the bone marrow in the leg and then is attached to IV fluids, and that's how we give cardiac arrest drugs, is through that IO line.
Sounds so painful.
Were any drugs given at that time?
Yes, sir. Throughout the call, we gave 2 rounds of epinephrine.
What is epinephrine?
Epinephrine is an alpha antagonist that tries to get the heart going again. And so we gave 2 doses of 1 milligram of our 1 to 10,000 concentration.
And you said an IV is also placed there?
No, sir.
I'm sorry.
Started IV.
So is it? I apologize. So is there just a needle put in there?
So the needle is drilled into the bone marrow. It course down through it, and then once you gain access to the bone marrow, the internal part of the needle comes out where it's just a hollow needle. And then an IV line that's attached to an IV bag is hooked up to that. And it kind of runs and diffuses the saline or the meds into the bone marrow of that leg.
Is there a reason to do that versus a regular vein in the arm?
Sometimes when they're in cardiac arrest, their vascular access isn't the greatest. So that's why several years ago they went to these IOs, because most patients have access that you can put IOs in, and it keeps also the personnel away from the chest, because you want good compressions going on and you don't want anything disrupting good chest compressions. So you move that down the body to the legs for your saline and your drug administrations.
Okay. And 2 doses were provided?
Epinephrine, yes, sir.
Okay. Now, is that your direction?
Yes, sir.
Is that a standard protocol for you to do that?
Yes, sir. For a medical cardiac arrest, epinephrine standard protocol.
So standard and standing? Is that what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I didn't know if you said standing versus standard.
Standard.
Okay, I apologize. So then what are the next steps that take place?
The next steps was I told my officer to give an advanced airway or to intubate the patient using our air track device. And so that's what he did, suctioned out the airway and introduced an endotracheal tube down into the trachea to feed the lungs with oxygen. That also has a balloon on the end of it that actually secures the airway better than an OPA does.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Can you describe that to me? What does it look like? I mean, does it go actually?
So yes, it goes in the mouth. It's a plastic tube, and you kind of gauge what size the patient requires, what size of the endotracheal tube. It passes through the mouth. In our case, our air track is a handle with a blade that moves the tongue of the jaw out of the way.
Yes.
Camera on the end, so you can visualize the vocal.
I couldn't tell you the
cords,
last time I wrapped a
trachea,
present.
as opposed to behind.
That
it,
is
the
so
esophagus leads to the stomach.
annoying.
And then with that camera, you're able to feed the tube.
It's been at least a decade since I wrapped a present, at least.
To blow up a small air balloon into the tip of that tube to secure it, not only inside the trachea, but in case the patient does vomit or is bleeding, it doesn't allow anything to come back down into the trachea. And then the tube comes out the mouth, and then you change from the mask to then your BDM going to the tube to ventilate the patient.
The BDM is
the bag valve.
And is that a part of the squeeze thing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to make it as basic. Okay. So basically, that is used to push air back into.
It's used to oxygenate patients.
And that was per policy and was followed.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now we have that in. We have the epinephrine pushed twice. What happens next?
Every 2 minutes, we pause our CPR long enough to do a rhythm check, just to make sure that it hasn't gone into a shockable rhythm, something that we can defibrillate the electricity to get the heart going again at each 2 minutes. In this call, each 2 minutes, we're seeing a systole with one small time where it was in a PEA or a pulseless electrical activity. That 2 minute check. And then we went back to CPR throughout the rest of the call.
So those the terms that you use, did he ever? What does that mean? Like what was going on with his physiology?
So his heart wasn't beating, so he was in asystole. It's a cardiac rhythm that is flatlined, which you might have heard it. That we're using at one point. It looked like his heart may have had electrical activity, being without a pulse, though. So that's why the pulse is electrical activity. Then went back to asystole for the next pulse check, the next 2 minutes.
Okay. So at any time does the patient does his heart start pumping?
When we handed off to the ER staff, yes, his heart started pumping again.
So all these steps are being done as per your protocol.
Yes, sir.
What is any other steps taken at that time where you're switching in at the 2 minutes for checking? Are you guys now en route to the hospital at this time?
Yes, sir. We've been en route to the hospital. Every 2 minutes, you just have to change just because it can get taxing physically. So every 2 minutes, I had a new person come in on chest compressions.
I was wondering if that's what happened there.
Yes, sir. Okay. And from that location to
University.
Hospital,
I thought she was talking to you about like not wrapping a present.
It was one of those two. It was one of those two options.
Performing.
But thank you, Shrey.
For your protocol standard matrix.
None was listed in toxicology,
Yes, sir.
but he
So
also
you get to the hospital.
was on
Get to the hospital.
machines for like
We
3
try not
days
to
in the
move the
hospital.
patient or stop those chest compressions within those 2 minutes to keep our blood pumping with our medications and our oxygen. So we were within those 2 minutes still happening. So I advised my officer that to continue the 2 minutes and to come inside at the end of those 2 minutes. And I went into the hospital to give my handoff report to the waiting team there in the ER.
Okay. Prior to getting to the hospital, do you guys have communication with the hospital?
Yes, sir. We called him via a biophone or a cell phone to give them a heads up that we're coming in and coming in with.
And who does that?
I do that generally.
Okay, did you do that on this case?
Yes, sir.
And you described what to the medical
I
staff?
described a cardiac arrest that we had in the advanced airway for doing CPR, had an IO, gave epinephrine, and a genuine.
I'm with you on that one, bud.
And you provided all that information via phone and in person?
Chemical restraint
Yes,
seems
sir. By phone is
absolutely
pretty much what I told you.
terrifying and
And
disgusting.
in person, I expanded that on a little bit of what we were called to, what had been done to that point, and then what condition the patient was in when we handed off to them.
Okay. Did you advise them that ketamine had been administered?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I know it's, so the 2 minutes they come inside with the patient.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Who's doing what, if you can recall at that time?
If I recall correctly, the officer is still ventilating the patient, and I don't recall who was doing chest compressions as they came in the hospital.
And that was consistent with practice and protocol?
Yes, sir.
And what happened? So they go into the hospital, they put them in a room?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
In one of the front rooms, handed off to the hospital staff there, and then they take over patient care from that point.
Okay. So at the end, patient care is handed off to the staff at the hospital?
Yes, sir.
What do you all do?
I make sure that the staff there doesn't have any other questions for me. I make sure that the ambulance personnel have the information that they need from us, and then we restock any supplies that we may have used.
Is there anything else that took place that I didn't ask the right question, or events or procedures that you guys, or you directed anybody to do?
Mm-hmm, sir.
How long has ketamine been used by the Aurora Fire Department?
I'm not sure of the exact duration.
Have you ever administered ketamine prior to this date?
Yes, sir.
Oh, he has.
That you have?
I don't recall exactly where.
As a Aurora firefighter, or down when you're down in the?
As an Aurora Fire.
Can you recall it? Is it something new for Aurora to have ketamine, or has it been?
Again, I'm not sure of the exact duration that we've had it, but it's new as of maybe approximating a couple of years.
Okay. And on that, how did you get certified to use ketamine?
You go through training, EMS training. They discuss the medication and the protocol that is to be given in.
And who provides that training?
In this case, it was a co-training with Aurora Fire and Falk, and the class that I went to was a Falk supervisor that taught the class.
And is that supervisor a paramedic?
Yes, sir.
Does he have specialized training outside of just being a paramedic? Do you know?
I'm not sure of his training.
Okay. Did you, besides your guys' protocol, I assume this is matrix
One of the protocols that we are.
specific to agitated combative patients?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the transport of handcuffed patients being one of the protocols that you followed?
Not necessarily that one. We never transported a handcuffed patient.
Okay, so because they were in soft restraints.
Yes, sir.
And then medications, ketamine. You ever seen this form before?
Yes, sir, I have.
Okay. And the dosing, the amount of the dosing levels, or how it is broken down, is on this form somewhere.
Yes, sir. You're asking about the dosage?
Right.
Yes, sir. It's here under dosage and administration.
Okay. Have you ever learned it any other way than 5 milligrams?
5 milligrams per kilogram.
Have you learned it to anything else other than that?
During the training, it was brought up that if you don't know an exact weight, you can kind of go off of generalized dosing of 300, 400, or 500, depending on the size of the patient. 500 being large adult, 400 being a smaller adult, and then 300 being, I guess, an adolescent to a very small adult.
Okay.
Just a generalized.
When you say it was brought up, did you learn this via PowerPoint? Is it written down somewhere?
I believe it was.
Check some kid with ketamine. Jesus.
Is it written down somewhere, or is this just a standard practice?
I don't believe the 300, 400, 500 is not in our protocols anywhere.
I really want chocolate chip cookies, like so bad.
Make it happen.
And
You got this.
I don't know how that happened. I do. It's because I'm reading some
cause and effect
crappy
of
news
getting
story about.
the
Chocolate
ketamine
chips.
participation.
Mhm.
Did he respond in what you have learned or observed
Nice.
to
Chocolate chip
appear to be
cookies.
consistent with the
Better
results?
get your sugar now.
Like, did his behavior change?
Apparently there's a shortage.
From the ketamine.
His initial behavior.
Oh yeah, like I don't make anything from scratch.
And
Yeah, I figured that out the other day when you were asking me how long macaroni
as a
Boil
firefighter,
pasta.
paramedic, Have you have?
What
at
did I
least
ask?
one previously. And.
Seriously.
In that,
Yeah,
in that
McKinley
incident,
doesn't cook very
do
often.
you
Okay.
remember why it
That's
was
okay.
administered?
One incident that I can recall that I actually remember all the facts of was somebody that was smoking spice. That was in that hyper aggressive state that we gave ketamine for. The other instances, I don't remember the exact reasons.
What's up,
so,
Mustang?
Smoking of spice.
How you doing, bud?
Did he meet a criteria also?
Yes, sir. He saw, I don't know, he or she had a lot of the same signs and symptoms that's in their ketamine protocol.
I want cookie dough.
Anything that we have discussed that you'd like clarification or would like to clarify?
Yes, sir.
We're gonna step out. So camera and recording will continue, so if you guys step out into the hallway.
Okay.
And go talk to the bosses and then I'll come back in just a little bit.
Okay.
Would you like some more water?
No, sir. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
So the 3, 4, 500 thing he said wasn't in their protocols anywhere, which means that
For the record, there's only a couple minutes left of the interview once they come back. So let's resume playing on interview from 15 minutes to 15 hours, 3 minutes, 35 seconds.
All right, that's fine.
so that's something that the road guys came up with on their own, essentially.
Maybe. It depends on which one's right?
Well, he said it wasn't in the protocols
303
anywhere.
on September 11th.
Who said that? The detective?
No, the Jeremy Cooper.
Recording has remained on. So we
I mean, I guess because he's wrong.
specifically on,
Yeah.
Doses, the dose chart, I guess, if you will, the 5 per kilo breakdown. If the person is in between the 300, 400, 500, is it common or would it be, do you round up or do you round down? When you do that, like if they,
Appreciate you, Dork.
because if you look at the math, it comes out.
Thanks for stopping through.
25, right? If
Hi.
you broke down the dosage of this for the weight, to estimate on weight.
Right? MG.
That's true.
Estimation of the dosage, correct, or something close to that. I'm doing the math in my head.
If you know the exact way, yeah, you can probably try
He
to get
said
as
court
close.
audio is so muffled. Oh,
Estimation.
Mustang, that's
And so
because
common to
it's
go versus
an
down.
interrogation video.
Like if you're right dead smack, like if you were in between the 400 and 500 dose, or closer to the, from at
You can
440.
probably figure out 450. Each 100 milligrams is a cc, so you could probably measure out a half cc if that was the case.
Okay. But at that time, your dose direction was
At that point, I put him at 100 kilos,
Okay.
500
okay.
milligrams.
Specific to, do you know the signs of a ketamine overdose?
Of a ketamine overdose?
Yes.
I don't know of an overdose, but I know in our protocols, a side effect of ketamine can be like respiratory depression.
Any other signs that are consistent, or any other signs that you know of when it comes specifically to ketamine?
Other than respiratory depression. that's in the
Exactly.
protocol. Okay.
Or at least close, you know.
Anything that you would like clarified?
These are the bullet
No.
points.
Anything that you would like to expand or clarify?
No, sir.
Okay, that's it. 306. Thank you very much. I'll you guys stand up and in. Turn on before we guys today.
Good approach to discuss that scheduling.
Yeah, we're playing a video in court and using the court microphones, I think, to pick up the video. It's a bit of a mess. I'm not really sure
Also,
what the hell's going
interrogation
on.
videos are just kind of like always, they're not usually great.
Yeah. I don't know what's
Or
going on today,
interview videos.
but it appears that we are almost done with the day.
Crazy.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell's going on. I wonder, I can't imagine the state rests, right? Maybe.
But then maybe.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. Come on, I don't want to hit the button. It's so close.
folks on the jury. From what I'm told, we're ahead of schedule. And there's some issues that have been brought to the court's attention that are prompting the court to do what I'm going to do here in a moment. And that is to excuse the jury for the rest of the day. I'd like you to be
Sweet.
Back at 8:30 tomorrow morning. Please recall, don't form or express opinions or discuss the case. Do no independent research about this case or this kind of case, and avoid any press coverage about this case or this kind of case. And we'll see you in the morning at 8:30, hopefully.
All right, jury's dismissed for the day, but we have something going on for a minute or two, and then they come back at some point, I think. Right here. So we'll check that out before we get out of here. But the jury's done for the day, and we're ahead of schedule. This judge is giving me all kinds of good news today. Woo! Hot dog.
All right, the jurors have stepped out. Please be seated. There's a communication that I need to hand out to counsel. It is from juror 24 in seat 14.
Uh-oh. Juror issue.
Apparently it was sent to the jury commissioner at, from what I can tell, at 7:17 last evening, but I didn't get it until right toward the end of the video.
It could be an issue depending on what it says.
This is juror number 24 in seat 14. And are we off?
Oh, they're going to turn it off now.
Okay.
Yeah, he is. What
It's
a
off?
prick. Why? Why don't we get to hear what's going on? That is bull. Justice dies in the dark. What was the juror issue?
I don't know, fool.
All right,
Hold
we
on.
got one more. They come back on video for a little bit here. Not for very long, like 10 minutes. So maybe we'll figure out what the hell's going on here. Maybe they hashed it all out and coming back to let us know. Why can't we have this camera angle the whole time?
We do, but it's just not.
All right, just give me that. Just give me that one camera. That's all I want. Just one camera. Pick one angle and give me that camera.
Recall 21 CR 2800 and 2806. I believe we have the parties and counsel present. Please refer to the jurors by either their seat number or juror
Well,
number.
hopefully that's a good thing.
Rather than name. But before we
What?
broke, we were
What do you
informed
say?
Moni
there's
G.
a
Moni
medical
G.
issue potentially with the juror who is seated in seat number 14, who's juror number 24.
A medical issue.
Juror number 6 has been contacted, by the way. All right, let's go first.
Judge, on behalf of Mr. Cooper, we would ask the court we think we should inquire with juror 24. See if juror 24 would be amenable to getting a confirmatory test before we make any other decisions. If we can hope it's false. But in fact, it's not, that the medical issue can be alleviated that way, and then we can continue. That's where we would like to start.
Judge, on behalf of Mr. Cichuniec, and we've conferred briefly with the people as well, we concur that that's a good first step. And the reason we say that is because in the juror's email, he indicated that the test he took was expired, and it was a home test. And so based upon those facts, we believe it would be reasonable for the bailiff or the jury commissioner maybe to contact him to inquire to see if he'd be willing to take a confirmatory test. I think the other question that would be helpful for everyone involved, juror number 6 has been notified. I don't know what his response was, but we all noticed that juror number 24 appeared today wearing a mask. I don't know if juror number 4 had shared his medical status with the other jurors, and whether that's going to create a problem for the other jurors. And so it may necessitate us speaking to the individual jurors. I can tell the court our perspective is to continue on with the trial with the appropriate safety provisions and protocols in place. And we're going to be as creative as we can to make that happen.
Sounds like you might have the Rona.
From the people?
Yeah.
I think on the initial steps, I think everybody's in agreement. I think it makes a lot of sense to request that the juror who indicated he took the COVID test to get a non-expired, good confirmatory or disconfirmatory test and try and get as much information as we can. I'm glad to hear that the court already was able to reach juror number 6. The concern that we have is that there may be other individuals on the jury who themselves have concerns or their loved ones would have concerns about a potential close COVID contact, and that may be a public health issue for them or the people that they're going home to at the end of trial. And so it feels from a public health perspective like we should at least notify them of the potential exposure and then potentially talk to everybody in the morning to see where this has us at. Would love it if they could all get tested, but there's probably not a realistic way to get that to happen before the morning.
It also wouldn't show up necessarily.
All right. And what I guess I'll infer a few things.
The juror told them that they tested positive last night at 7:17.
And they're just now reading the message.
I think the one
They had them
sitting
come
next
in and sit in the jury with the
juror number
courtroom all
51 and
day.
seat 5.
Well, half a day,
I mean,
couple hours.
you know, infer from that. Plus, my understanding is that our juror 24 didn't mention anything downstairs this morning.
In a case where people are being charged for medical negligence.
Other jurors.
The irony is
But I don't know that
amazing.
Necessarily.
Oh shit.
I guess I've been buying coffee and water for the last 6 weeks, so I'd rather not pay for a COVID confirmatory test, but that sounds like a
cheap bastard.
rational way to approach things, I guess. We'll contact juror 24.
It hasn't been 6
see if
weeks.
he'd be willing to do so.
I don't know what he's talking about exactly. She's so quiet.
That's what he seemed to be worried about. Well, he was worried about it because there was one sitting next to him, I think, so I suppose we could, on the wasn't. Yeah, I know. Just for his peace of mind.
On behalf of Mr. Cooper, we acknowledge that in the court community.
Hey, Farrell.
And Judge, I guess this is delicate. We have several members of the press in the courtroom, and I don't know if there's a way the court can ask that they refrain from reporting on this for at least 48 hours. I don't want to risk losing the jury.
Too late for that.
Court acknowledges people not talk, but this has a way of taking out our legends.
I'm about to tweet it.
Too late for that. What a dumb
Thought as well,
bitch.
but there was a request. for
Oh
live
my
streaming
god, that's so funny.
upon some family
Wait,
members,
hold on.
so It's already out.
Oh. He said something about live streamers.
So
Yeah, he knows. They all know.
No, but he said something about a request
I
to
know
live
I
streamers.
received
But
an email
fuck, he
from
can't do anything to us.
counsel for Mr. Cooper and the people.
Don't
I don't know if
tempt
I've received an email from one of the attorneys for Mr. Chichuniec or not. Why don't you send me one? That way, if I get any news one way or the other, I will just email everybody.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Okay, I didn't read the whole top part, so.
In terms of tomorrow morning, do we want the jurors, all the jurors to report, or the jurors minus the one who thinks he has COVID, or only if he is negative, or do we have them report and separate them? What should the procedure be?
Should
for the
have thought
morning?
about
So
that
homie
last
didn't
night.
even take a test.
I think he took an expired test. Is what it sounded like.
I think we'll see what kind of response we get from our juror number 24.
They're
We'll-
only going to tell one juror.
Gonna go from
That's
there.
cool.
We'll break it down here in a little bit, y'all. Let them finish.
That's
doing
crazy.
whatever
They're
they're
only
doing.
going to
My thought
tell
would be
one of them.
If juror number 24 ends up being confirmed positive, I think I would bring them up one at a time. Talk to them about, and this would not be broadcast.
That's
about
so
any,
messed up.
particular issues that they
That's
might have
so
with
messed up.
autoimmune folks in their
Oh.
household or whatever.
What an ironic
Kind of go
fuck
from
up.
there.
That's
Well, I
bullshit.
suppose
They
the-
should tell him no.
They should. They should have told him last night. But what do they? I mean, okay, let's be real.
Yeah,
Let's
any
be
other
real.
ideas?
C19, I don't think needs to be taken as serious as it. Why is she so fucking quiet back there?
Not an idea, Your Honor, but a question. Since we are being live streamed, is the court intending to reach out to the jury and let them know that there's at least been a report of a positive? It's kind of uncharted territory here. I would hate for them to see it on the news or.
All right. Well, I'm going to make an executive decision here, and based upon the circumstances being discussed, the court is going to, for the moment, is medical issues involving jurors, so the court will, for the time being, disconnect the live stream.
But we already know.
Yeah, it's too late, homeboy. It's too late. It's way too late. It's not my birthday, y'all, but thank you anyway. All right. So, y'all, what just happened is last night a juror apparently, I'm gonna assume, tested positive on a COVID test that was expired, right? It's not a real positive. It's like one of those at-home test things. They're like, I need to go get checked out. So last night at 7:00, they told the who's in charge of the jury? Who's that person? The court staff that's like the liaison. Yeah, okay. The clerk. They told the clerk last night at like 7:00 that
they sent an email
There you
to
go.
like an email that they didn't check until today.
So the
Tonight,
judge
right now.
got it today, just now. Somebody's been sitting in court all day on that jury, suspecting that they have COVID. Another juror was wearing a mask today. So
The one that sits right next to that
next to
juror.
them. So in a case where people are being tried for their medical negligence in a manslaughter trial, they let all day long a juror sit thinking that they have COVID in the courtroom.
And now they are not going to inform the rest of the jurors that they've like been exposed, they're going to wait
potentially exposed.
and they hope that the jury doesn't find out from the news that somebody on the panel or somebody, sitting next to them has
The defense wanted the judge to
Rona.
basically put a gag order on the fact that a juror may have the Rona. And the judge was like, it's being live streamed. Like, it's too late for that, essentially.
Right.
So good call there on the judge. But that is hilarious.
But then the judge decided at this point to disconnect the live stream because he claimed it was because of medical stuff, but only after the defense was like, well, now we think you should definitely like report to the jury that, they've been exposed because they're going to find out from the live stream. And he's like, oh, okay, you're right. I'm just going to disconnect the live stream. Like, we already know, dude.
Oh my God, this is so funny. How perfect of a situation to have in this case specifically. Oh, that's so funny.
I'm like still shocked at the way they're handling it though.
Oh yeah, they're not handling it well.
They're not being honest.
Well, and I don't know if you caught that, but the prosecutor was the one that said COVID. So the prosecutor just potentially leaked HIPAA information to the world on a live stream.
Well, but HIPAA doesn't apply to him. HIPAA applies to like the medical providers.
It wouldn't apply to the DA, to the prosecutor? No. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, it's still funny. Oh, it's funny. So could you imagine, in knock on wood, pray that nothing like this does happen, but if somebody in this court situation caught the Rona and got horribly, horribly ill in a case where people are being charged for their medical negligence or whatever. The irony in this is just killing me. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. So here's the thing, y'all. The jury has been dismissed for the day, right? The live stream is still running, but I don't believe we're going to get the court back at all today. I don't think the court's coming back because they're not even in the WebEx anymore. They're basically on Colorado Judicial Branch's page. So I think the court shut down, and I think Law and Crime is still running, is what I think is happening here. So I think we're done for the day. I think this was a short day. We got about 2.5 hours of content, and I think that's all we're getting until tomorrow.
Okay.
I think that's it. I think everybody, obviously, if you have yet to do so, please hit the like button for us. We appreciate it. I certainly do. I'm sure McKinley agrees. And go check out McKinley over at Legally Live. She's the new up and comer. She's gonna be doing things. It's gonna be nice.
Yeah. Go subscribe to my page. If you're here and you haven't subscribed to my page yet,
What are you doing?
I'm mad at you.
Right. Yeah, and Farrell, that's a great idea. I think we will set up a raid for David. And then tonight I will be on with the Broken Baker on his channel. I don't think I'm streaming it. I don't know why I would. But I'll be on his channel with CPU Tom, and we're going to be discussing the Karen Reed case a little bit further. Law related. Save. I'm in the wrong spot. There it is.
Okay, KLI.
This Friday, you guys, and then obviously I'll be picking up this trial tomorrow with McKinley as long as she's available. She's always welcome. This Friday we are going to do the Zachariah Anderson thing, and hopefully that will work out and go smooth. There's some concerns that we're discussing, but we will address them as they come. And we always figure out a way to make it happen. We always do, y'all. All right. At the moment, we are set up for a David raid. This Sunday, to be determined time frame, but me and Dictionary Diva are going to be doing a paint stream, chat paint along deal. Me and Dictionary Diva both have the supply list posted on our community tabs. It's pretty basic. I think there's 4 colors. If you don't have the right colors, it's okay. We'll make it work. If you don't have the right brushes, it's okay. We'll make it work. Nothing set in stone. Get a couple brushes, get a couple colors, and we'll paint some evergreen Christmas trees. It'll be a lot of fun. A little festive painting session. And then we're going to continue this trial till it's done. Next Saturday, obviously, the 16th, is the Lego stream, and we have officially locked in Good Logic. He is officially our guest. Last night, live on air last night, he bought a Lego set and confirmed that he is the guest. So that's a lock it in thing. And I think that's all I got. You got anything else, McKinley?
Nope.
All right. I appreciate you all for being here. You guys are amazing. Without you, it would just be, me and McKinley laughing at a WebEx, and that's no fun. That's no fun at all. I
mean, it would still be kind of fun.
Well, it would be a little bit fun, but it would be less fun. We'd sound weird addressing a chat that's not there.
Yeah, that's how I am when I do a live. I'm just talking to myself.
Well, that's what happens when you end it after 6 minutes or whatever the hell it was. You got to give people time to come in, McKinley. You got to give people time to come in. All right, y'all. Much love, and we'll see you. Well, I'll see you tonight somewhere. I'm sure I'll be on the tubes. I might even go join Baker for a little, or David for a little while. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Later, y'all.
In case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.